0000000. I'm here with Gino.
Hey, Danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game. I'm a player. Feeling like Pac. Represent. On my block. Try to knock me down, but I come up on top. Yeah, they wanna see me flop. Got a plot, want a lot. I won't stop on my pops. Got so many flows, it's insane. They don't really understand the game. Got a plan and it's plain, I ain't playing. I'm just trying to gain. I wanna get that big bag, need that big Rex. Blow up Tic Tac, where the blue cheese at. I don't give a fuck about your feedback. Eat that, get back, sit back, watch me spit that kickback. Got so many flows, yeah, they think that I'm insane. Ghetto kids in a lot of pain, all about the bills, ain't shit changed. Danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game, I'm a player. If you a hater, I don't hate you. I'm just really happy that I ain't you. I just wanna thank you. You kept me motivated, so now I motivate you. There's a lot of cake, money on my mind like a banker. Coming through with them bangers, ain't no room for mistakes. Lot of stake, hustle till we get a lot of rooms, lot of stakes. Good kid, but I keep it gangsta. All gas, no brakes. Got cash for the case. More cash in the case. More cash in the safe. More cash on the way. Hustling all day. Ay. Danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game. I'm a player.
Danger, coming with them bangers. Where my fucking paper.
Said I'm taking big shots, just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. They been trying to get me cheap like a thrift shop, but I told them it's my time, check the wristwatch. They been talking way before they even doing something. Whoa. If they wanna play, let's get a tip off. Ain't no silver lining, dawg, this some rose gold. Getting new money, I'm a old soul. Yeah, I get it bouncing like a pogo. Whoa. And I'm too cold like Frozone. And my chick elastic, girl. Told him we ain't in the faking, this ain't plastic, girl. Bought a new whip and cash, now my tax is thorough. Way I'm shooting like step, but my pass is bro. The way I'm playing the field, I'm in a league of my own. And now they all in they fields, I got them all on my phone. But dog, I'm hitting the climb, I got no time on the low. Way I'm shooting is messy, the way I'm hitting the goals. I'm taking big shots, just stop. Way I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. I just left, but you know I'm coming back though. Whoa. And you know I don't play by my rags though. Now go and turn it up to the max, whoa. Send a paper to me now like a fax, whoa. Yeah. Got 2 phones ringing off the hood now. When I'm in the city, I get looks now. I was going bad, but I'm good now. Said I had to go and put my foot down. Told them I'ma get it and go. Even in the summer, man, they knowing I'm cold. I got a couple checks coming that I made out the flows. Might get a couple more popping if I do it some more. I gotta do it for real. Said I'm back in my bag. All my digits are climbing just like they all on the dash. And he told me slow down, cause dog, I'm moving too fast. Might go and caught me a Tesla, cause dog, I still got a gas. Said I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots.
top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the road, here we go, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like. Yeah, you about to see me on demand like. You know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll, hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah. On the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll, hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah. On the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go. On the road, here we go, here we go.
Oh, shout out to Coin Hoover. I'll get you the bet on Polymarket, bro. I'm not going to put the hat on. What is going on, Mafia? Welcome back to the Frankie Candles live stream. Bitcoin continuing to bing bong around here. Getting a little bounce yesterday. I actually want to go over that with you guys today because we saw literally exactly what we were looking at on the live stream play out for a little scalp to the upside, and now we have come down and taken out the low with another bounce to the upside. But this one is on a nice deviation below the low with some bullish divergences. Are we going to be able to see the local bounce continue? We're going to cover the local levels to the upside. And then I also want to talk about, guys, some of the higher time frames. Not the typical is the bottom in, but I want to talk about, is Bitcoin actually building a bottom? What could it potentially look like? And yeah, can we start talking about higher prices sooner than later? So shout out to the Mafia. Welcome in. Thank you guys all for tuning in. We got big huggies in the chat. What is going on? Crypto Paisa said, what's up, mods? Shout out to you, brother. Shout out to Darren Does Things in here holding it down. Tony D is going to be a little bit late. He's driving somebody to the airport. We got Gen Z in the chat said, I'm scared, Frankie. I'm here to hold you, brother. Platonically, of course. Shout out to Gen Z. Welcome in. And shout out to Cambia said, make his AI lips thicker. Hashtag thick lips 2026. Maybe make my beard thicker. Let's go with that. I'd like a thicker beard. My lips are fine. I'll take a thicker beard, though. But let's see. Shout out to Panda the Prophet in the chat. What is going on, bro? Says classes in session. But, guys, we got some stuff to look at here. We're going to do a quick live stream. I don't want to bore everybody with the same stuff we've been looking at, but we'll cover all the new stuff, and especially this local bounce from a key level that we just tapped. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into the charts. Let's get into it. Shout out to Doc said, nice hair. Thank you, bro. We've been showing off the follicle lately here. I swear, guys, I have like 4 Frankie Candles hats sitting next to me right now. They're like my comfort clothing. I don't know. But here we go. We got Darren Does Things in the chat here holding it down. Thank you for being here, brother. Tony D should be coming in for some backup here soon. But let's go ahead and jump on into the charts here, guys. So obviously, yesterday, if you guys watched the live streams, you will know we took a little bit of a scalp long here in the premium Discord. My entry is about 66,150, something like that, like right down here. And specifically, we were looking at the local price action here. Let me go ahead and hide our range. We were looking at the local price action here, actually kind kind of, I don't always pull my volume profiles like this, but when I want to kind of see where the volume is sitting, I will pull it from the high, right, just to kind of get an idea of what the profile looks like here. And yesterday we were kind of hitting our head, right? We got the move from the value area low. We were pushing up towards that POC. I think we were live like right around here. We were hitting our head looking for a potential flip of this point of control as well as a snap above this high for a very specific reason. We had this low volume gap sitting here, and once we were able to crack above those highs, it would kind of open up the door to get a little bit of a bigger push to the upside. And of course, this was a setup in the premium Discord, and we did capitalize on that move. But as we've kind of been covering here on all of these like local levels, right? Obviously, we came down to where are we at? Hey, let me redraw these here. We came down to tap this naked point of control with our 786 Fibonacci retracement. I'll just kind of rough it out here so you guys can get an idea. I don't want to waste time trying to get that tick to tick. 786 daily MPOC. We also had a daily horizontal level there. When we started the live stream yesterday, we were kind of bing-bonging underneath this, and then we were hoping, right, to get up above that daily MPOC and the 786 for a potential bigger push to the upside, again, through that low volume gap. And you could kind of see here, guys, like the volume profile is just absolutely amazing at their jobs here. Come on down to a lower time frame. Come on. Right, understanding that low volume gap was sitting here, and right once we break above that low volume gap, right, once we get above that key level of resistance, you can see here. Let me change the value area here to 100% so you guys can actually see it. I'd like to give you guys a little bit of education here to show you how we were able to see this stuff before it happens. Right, we obviously had that low volume gap here, and we were hitting our head right on that low volume gap. Break above it, that's where you have the best opportunity. Right, not a lot of resistance above you for that bigger continuation to the upside. And then as we pushed up to those higher prices, we were, of course, let me get that golden pocket off the chart, looking at our upper range where we had our value area low sitting here at about $66,855. I believe that scalp kind of viewpoint in the Discord was I think I still have it sitting here. There it is. Sitting here with, I believe the original kind of final scalp version of the TP there was about 67K, right? I think it was like 66.9. So we were able to get that little move to the upside. Of course, not anticipating super big moves off these levels, guys, as we've talked about, right? We had this local daily, 786 daily MPOC. We also have the golden pocket sitting underneath us, which is the next level I want to cover, which we've obviously talked about recently here in the past, from the low to the high. Right? I'm sorry, from the full low to the actual high. Right, golden pocket daily MPOC. This is the next level underneath us, right? You guys know that I do favor a bigger move down here, not necessarily from a probability standpoint, but I do just prefer to see the bigger drop down to take out this low. We have much, much higher time frame support down there. I'll cover this very quickly because I know it's very repetitive. Unfortunately, there's not too much new stuff to look at here on the chart right now, but we do have these 3 high time frame levels of support, right? So if we do end up getting another big drop to the downside, and I'll kind of cover from a high time frame what that can look like if we do end up coming back down here. I would just look like this is just a bigger level of support. We don't have any high time frame bullish divergences down here, as we've mentioned before. It would just be really nice to see some high time frame bull divs form into that macro level of support for a bigger bounce to come in. So this is still my biggest area of interest from a higher time frame, sitting between $55,000 and $58,000. But locally, right, the only things we really have to look at here are these like local MPOCs and these kind of like low confluence areas. Golden pocket daily naked point of control. If we do get rejected from this value area and get a bigger push to the downside, this would be the next area I'd be interested in a scalp. And of course, there's no harm in taking the long positions as long as you are viewing them as scalp positions, right? If this ended up turning into a bigger swing trade, that would be great, right? But we would just let that hit us by surprise. But for the most part, let me see if I can pull this up in the Discord here real quick, just to give you guys an idea of kind of what we were looking at. Bada boom, right? So we saw we had this low volume gap. Same thing we looked at on the live stream within this volume profile. Break above here, right? That would indicate that we could get the bigger move into that value area low, potentially filling that gap up to about $67,000. And of course, right, we come up there and we fill the gap to $67,000 before getting that rejection. So obviously not a bad idea to look for the scalp, but understanding like, hey, this is technically the full TP from a scalp perspective, right? this would be a great trade, right? I took partial profit, stop loss to break even, so ended up getting stopped out in profit there personally. But it's okay, right? When you get those levels, you can see the reactions, right? You can make money on those moves to the upside, but not super interested in these levels for like super, super big moves, right? There's just not a ton of confluence. And again, like no real serious confirmations. However, as we have now come down to take out this low once again, which of course, not super surprising, kind of the expectation there, as I just showed you, we had an ExoCharts MPOC down here at about $65,600. And at this point, right, we have now deviated below the low, right? We even had some not even, I guess you kind of had bull divs down there. But we did get the push into the daily naked point of control. We got some lower lows on our price action into the key level with our higher lows on our momentum waves. Now getting a, I guess a decent bounce, right? Based off the boring kind of choppy price action, right? You get a little bounce to the upside, and we are now approaching and attempting to hold this value area low as support. So at the end of the day, right, when we look at this from a volume profile perspective, deviation below the low, bullish divergences are forming, and if we can get accepted into this profile, we could potentially start targeting that point of control of the range. Now, I will say, guys, as I've kind of mentioned through here, very choppy price action, although this volume profile has been pretty reliable, right? Bear divs at the high, rotation to the POC, lose the POC, back down to the low, deviation below the low. Even here, right, we had some bullish divergences forming into key levels. We actually front ran the key level here, which is not very common, but you get the bull divs, higher lows, get accepted into the value area, POC, value area high. So the range has been perspected pretty well here, but we don't have a ton of confluence in my personal opinion. We kind of have a lot of mixed signals locally, but at the end of the day, right, this is a deviation below the low, definitely an opportunity for a somewhat of a failed auction type move, right? As long as we can stay inside this value area, POC would be the next major target. We do have some confluence on this level, so I'll talk about this. This is going to be one of the key local levels I'll be looking at here on the medium time frames, I guess lower time frames, something like the 1 hour to 30 minute. But just very simple here, right? Like just like here, bull divs at the low, flip the value area low, and if we zoom in there, you can actually see, right? Get in there, flip the low, push to the POC. Just very, very typical volume profile behavior. I don't know how confident I am on these levels, guys, or this move just because of the confluence. One thing that we did have on our side here just before was a 4-hour green dot that was printing. We also had our 15-minute money flow attempting to cross into the green. It has not crossed over yet. And typically with these market cipher B116 strategies, I really do like to see the money flow crossover as the 4-hour green dot is printing. Of course, this is now confirmed. So it's kind of like a half signal, not like the most beautiful setup in my opinion, right? The confluence wasn't there in the perfect timing. But as we come up to some of these higher time frames, the one thing I will be looking at to see if we can get a continuation up here, just to give you a very specific signal, would be, right? And you could even, if we zoom in here, right? This VWAP is kind of like, right? So it's not the strongest VWAP curvature, right? I like to see these be nice and clean, rounded. I do not like to see these flat or inverted. This one's kind of just mixed, right? It's very, very, very choppy. So just the idea of the bull divs below the low, it's also a 1-hour bull div, right? So it's not, it's a significant signal, but it's not like, super high time frame or anything like that. But just like the theory of the deviation below the low, like I'm never looking for shorts here, right? You can only really be looking for the bounces. And of course, right, if we lose this value area low temporarily, we could look, right, the idea here would be to see that green dot print on the 8-hour time frame, and then hopefully we could continue to see this money flow on the 30-minute crossover. We've already kind of got a crossover here. We came out, we came back up. So again, just very clear, this is a very choppy situation. So we'll see what happens if we do pull back. Obviously, like we don't want to lose this 786. I'll give you kind of the invalidation here. If we do end up coming down, right, you would hope that you could get a higher low on your Fibonacci retracement, right? And then, if we don't end up holding it locally here, this is the deepest I would like to come. Once you lose $65,900, I'm going to be looking for that next big area of support, and, big with quotation marks, right? As I just mentioned, right, like the higher time frame, bigger levels. Now, this is the last time I'll say this because I know it's super repetitive, but it is just kind of what we're working with here. I really prefer these higher time frame levels. But that doesn't mean, right, if we see those local levels tap, that we're not going to capitalize on, even if it is just a scalp to the upside, right? We already caught that scalp yesterday. We're getting this bounce right now. Even if we come down here, it winds up being a lackluster bounce, just like we capitalize on the scalp long here, right? We can capitalize on that, make a little money for the day, even if it does roll over. And then, down here, 786, I'm even less interested in this personally, because at that point, right, take off the upper range, pull up our bigger range, right? At that point, right, like you're still fighting the idea of this larger volume profile, right? Deviate above the highs, back into the range, can't get out, POC. If we can't get above that POC, which is very close to that value area low, golden pocket, sure. But if you can't get back above that POC, right, the anticipation there is to eventually come back down and visit these lows. This is technically the statistical higher probability. I wish I had a ton of confluence that was pointing towards this. We did have a little bit of confluence yesterday with the daily red dot. Didn't really give us too much of a move down. So we'll kind of see what happens there. But again, like if I were not just taking the small scalps, I would pretty much just be waiting for a bigger drop down here or down towards that value area low. So we'll see, right? Local level. Underneath us, if we wind up coming back down, 64,872 and between 64,872 and 64,124. And then, honorable mention, you could look at this as a Fibonacci retracement zone. Once you lose that 786, fully anticipating that value area low, even though it is still statistically, even before we lose that, the higher probability. So we'll see what happens there. So you got your local range in here. If that fails, right, we're looking down towards the golden pocket. If that fails, I'm personally looking down towards the value area low, unless I get a beautiful setup on that 786. But either way, right, like as I've mentioned, very similar to this situation here, right? Like there's just not a ton of new levels underneath us. When we were back up here within this range, right, once we lost these lows, we had like no support. We had a massive low volume gap, which of course, just like yesterday on the local moves, is very, very nice to be able to identify, right? We just had no horizontal levels underneath this, right? There were no MPOCs, just nothing really to look at. Once we lost these lows, we had the clear low volume gap. Very likely to see that big capitulation down, called perfectly, just based off that volume gap. And the lack of support, right? It's kind of the same thing here on like a little mini version, right? You just kind of have like local levels that I'm not that interested in. Even here, right, we had some almost the exact same thing, right? We had the 786 sitting here. I think we had a local daily MPOC there, but I just wasn't that interested in it because we had all our bigger, higher time frame confluences, which were clearly sitting all down here within this lower volume profile, right? Once we lose this value area, right, price is likely, especially through the low volume gap, to capitulate into the bigger level of support. But as far as untapped levels, it's basically the same thing, right? Massive gap, fast move down. And when we zoom in here, right, you got like some of the local levels, of course. But other than that, right, like the higher time frame levels are all sitting down here. So, we'll see. It's not impossible to hold these, but I just to kind of explain to you guys why I prefer these levels. It's very similar to these levels with the lack of support here, bigger confluence here. We fill the range, we get the bounce. So there you go. We're just kind of playing it level to level here. And we'll keep an eye on this local range throughout the live stream, and we'll see if we can get rejected or accepted. That is the question. Or rejected or accepted? Let me know what you guys think in the chat. Are we going to get accepted back into this range for the push-up? And if not, do you think we're going to hold these lower levels? Now, if we do continue up, right, I do want to give you guys those local levels, right? So for anybody out there day trading or anything like that, lower time frame trading, right, biggest levels, I'll take these off because they're technically tapped right now. If we wind up losing that 786 that we brought up, this is the next big zone of support. If we continue up, I'm going to pull my fib here from the high of the rejection of the value area high down to the low. You can see here, come on, give me that wick. There we go. Give me that wick. You can see here, right, golden pocket, POC confluence. I don't think this is going to be confluent with the anchored VWAP. Let me see here. No. So, maybe the anchored VWAP from this high is something to look at as well. But golden pocket POC, you got some confluence there. Maybe this is confluent with a higher anchored VWAP. Let's see. Not really. Let's pull it from the last significant lower high. Maybe. But just in general, right, POC golden pocket. If we have money flow coming out, which as you can see here on the 2 hour, we do have, this could indicate continuation to the downside, right? Like if we had 1 hour bull divs down here, we had the money flow on the 1 hour, crossing into the green with a fresh 16-hour green dot printing. Maybe we see this happen, but it's just a little bit too far away for me to look at that right now. But if we have like beautiful confluence, this would be like a very confident move through the profile. But again, like in this choppy price action, guys, there's just a ton of mixed signals. It kind of reminds me of the price action that we had up here, right? When we pull this range, or actually I just pull it up because I already have it marked out. Almost leaked the setups there from the Discord. Let me move this up here so I don't I don't click that by accident. When we looked at this range, right, at the end of the day, we did have a lot of mixed signals, but what happened, right? We deviated below the low. We got the bullish divergences, lower lows, higher lows. We ended up taking that long position at about $85,000. We came up, we reclaimed the value area low, and we ended up seeing the fill of that volume profile and a deviation above. This is just very similar, right? It's if you look at this, right, let's just assume we get accepted into this profile, right? Maybe we bing bong around. We eventually get up to the value area high. We deviate, right? The next big level of resistance that I'm looking at is going to be that daily MPOC, the same level we've been looking at forever for my next personal short positions. Of course, I'm not necessarily interested in any like lower time frame shorts over here just because I'm still holding my shorts from higher. But it does just look very similar, right? At the end of the day, this was pretty honestly like, I don't know. This wasn't really the most beautiful setup because we had very similar to this, right? We had a lot of mixed signals. And like even this, right, like you had technically a 16-hour bullish divergence. So, even this was a little bit better in my opinion. But at the end of the day, right, if you're taking these longs, right, with good risk management, at the end of the day, right, you have a potential to make 8% with your stop loss below the lows, right? Risk to reward is absolutely beautiful there, right? To get stopped out for a small loss, right? But the opportunity to make money is much greater. Risk management, obviously, over win rate, strategy, everything. So we'll see, right? I wouldn't be surprised if you get that push into the POC. Again, you do have the confluence here. POC 786 sits just above that. So you do have some confluent resistance there. We'll see what the reaction is there. I don't love taking shorts at the point of control of the range unless, right, you have that Fibonacci confluence. So I don't really plan on taking a trade here. I'll just hold my shorts from higher. But that is key resistance, right? That sits at about $69,000. About $69,000. 68 to 69K. So I would say if you're going to mark off any levels on your chart, I would have these all ready, right? Maybe an alert here at the POC golden pocket. I'll set it right here. Bada boom. Alert here. I don't know why these keep getting deleted. I already had this alert set at the golden pocket. Golden pocket. And then other than that, right, like just chopping around. If we come down here, maybe interested in a scalp. If we come up here, maybe interested in a scalp. Not really personally, but I would say it's valid, right? Because you do have the confluence. And then technically you could... Yeah, I just don't like shorting above this, right? Because once you get above that POC, like, sure, you can reject the 786, but it would be safer, in my opinion, to wait for the rejection back below the POC golden pocket. Because, like, once you get above that POC, right, the theory of the volume profiles would state, right, hold the POC, next likely place for price to go is that value area high. And you can see, like, I actually took a scalp short here on the POC when we previously approached it, got stopped out of that position, right? What a stupid, not a stupid mistake, right? I got stopped out for a small loss, but it's just like, had the setup, hit the key level, got the SFP, took the trade, technically came into profit. But at the end of the day, like, what are we doing here, right? We're fading the volume profile. Super high probability, even if you get that setup. So just kind of explaining to you guys why I don't really love shorting within the profile, unless it's at the value area high. So those are the biggest levels. I would say, I would keep it a little safer here. 69K, and then you have the golden pocket daily naked point of control, 64,872 to 64,124. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get this 30-minute red dot. 24-minute red dot's already printing. 30-minute red dot's looking to print. Hopefully, if we get this red dot to print, we get a little bit of a cool-off. Hopefully, we can hold a higher low, get this money flow to continue into the green, and then again, specifically, we want to see that 8-hour green dot start to print. So we'll see what happens, right? We got to get accepted above that value area low. So that's what I'm looking at on the lower time frames, guys. I don't want to spend too much time in here, right? Like just kind of a super low probability zone. Really more interested in this and more interested in this. But of course, I know we got a bunch of scalpers. We're also scalping it as well. But those would be the local levels I'm looking at. Nice context on that volume profile. And I also do want to cover some of the higher time frames with you guys and go over, right? We'll even pull up the cycle chart. What can we start looking for down here to potentially predict, right? Predict, or at least, we don't really want to predict it, but try to figure out like what we've seen in the past here and what we can look for a macro bottom to potentially form. Is the bottom in? Are we coming deeper? Are we going to 30K? And if we're not going to go to 30K, what can we look for in here to kind of anticipate that a bottom might be coming in? Tony D in the chat. What is going on, brother? Thank you for being here. And Jesse in the chat. We got the mods are back, baby. The mods are back. Shout out to Crypto Boy. Said, what about the 1 hour bull div? Shout out to you, brother. Just covered that in extensive detail. Shout out to Soul says, where do I find that Market Cipher B setup or the video for it? It's in the beginner series. If you guys are new here, go check out the beginner series playlist. It's like a beginner course pretty much for free on YouTube. Go watch that. Watch every video. You'll get caught up when we pull up the volume profiles. You won't be lost. You'll understand what we look for, how we trade them, some of the confirmations that we look for as well. I'm going to give you kind of a top-down view of generally what we look for here on the charts. Smash the like button, Mafia. Shout out to Lyndon. He said it, not me. Don't forget to smash that like button. It's the easiest and freest way to help support the channel, guys. There's Jesse dropping that link to the video for you, Soul. Let's see. 1 hour candle to 126K. 1 hour bull div, 1 hour candle to 126K. Let's do it. That would be lit. But let's take a look here at the higher time frames, guys. So overall, right, of course, we've identified losing $108,000. Very dangerous, right? I'll go over this very briefly. Right? Once we started losing the $108,000 value area high, there was a very key value area high here. We saw our money flow starting to come out on time frames like the 2-day. That helped us predict that this would likely be a big downtrend. The reason this was worrying to us was because not only would, if we were to get that 2-day downtrend, right, identified by the money flow, not only crossing over, but also giving the early signal trending out aggressively with higher highs, right? You got the 2-day bearish divergences, higher highs, lower highs, money flow divergence as well, higher highs, lower highs. Let me actually see something here. No, you didn't really have a volume divergence, but massive divergences here on the 2-day. And then, of course, if we were anticipating that money flow, right, 2-day bearish divergence is likely to bring you down. If your price starts going down, money flow is probably going to cross red, indicating the trend will continue, indicating we would lose that 50-week moving average. And then looking at the weekly, money flow starts trending out as well, which was able to let us know that losing that $108,000 level would likely mean that the top was in for Bitcoin here at 126K. And obviously, we've seen that continue us into a bear market as expected. And I do think, as I've mentioned many a times before, that I do think, right, like the major capitulations are kind of behind us here. Now, that does not mean that I don't think we can necessarily go lower, but I do think a lot of this pain could be behind us, right? We kind of have those two different scenarios where we have a potential earlier bottom coming in, not getting a traditional 70-ish% correction, right? That would be, I'm hopeful for this, right? But of course, the 4-year cycle, 70, would call for like a 73 to 74% correction, which could very easily bring us down towards this value area low of the 2021 bull market volume profile, right? Towards about $30,000. So that's not my base case right now, right? If we lose the POC at 47K, I know this looks different because this is the Bitstamp chart, but if I move this up, right, $47,000 is the point of control that I'm looking at. Once we lose 47K, that would be a much more bearish case for me, and I would just simply have to be looking down towards 30K, but that's not my base case right now. We can be open to looking for bottoms to come in here a little bit earlier. And again, we will hopefully be able to identify this through some structure and through some bullish confirmations. And this is kind of what I want to go over with you guys today. There's many ways that these bottoms can come in, right? And again, that like bigger support level comes in really between 55 and 47K. Lose 47K, that's the indication that we're probably going between 30, I believe it's 37 is the bigger level. Let me just pull that up real quick. You got a monthly MPOC. Yeah, 37K down to 30K. I really wouldn't want to see that, to be quite honest with you guys, for a few different reasons, right? At that point, if we go down to 30K, we would be, let's just eyeball it, right? Like 30K, maybe it's 28K, maybe it's 30K, right? That would bring us 55% below the previous all-time high. We have not ever seen that, right? I don't believe, right? I think this was more like 15%. I'm kind of drawing it roughly here. A little 20% drop below the previous all-time high, and then like this one, we never got a drop below the all-time high. So, this would kind of be a little worrisome for me personally. Not that I think Bitcoin would go to zero or anything like that, but it would just be like a much more bearish case. Of course, it's in the cards, but, we don't have to worry about that, right? There's no reason that, we can speculate on it. I think there's a very clear plan there. Lose 47K decisively. Chart looks like trash. There's no bottom signals. The money flow's not coming up. Then we can say, hey, now it's a higher probability to come to 30K. But until then, right? There's no reason to really look down there, in my opinion, until we have to deal with it, right? Maybe we don't even go down to 47K. What happens if we wind up not going down to 47K, right? What if we just kind of hold on top of 55 to 58K and we start forming a bottom, right? This is a case that's possible. So we'll see what happens. Nobody knows which one's going to happen, right? But I want to talk about what we can look for in here to make it a higher probability that we will not have to see 30K. So, of course, there's many ways that this can form. Last week, last cycle in 2022, we got beautiful weekly bullish divergences. And, obviously, this was something we were looking for, right? And, of course, we had a case where we can go to 12 to 14K, and, heck, there was a case that we could have gone to 8K. But we were not really paying attention to those levels, right? Why? Well, because there was no reason to pay attention to 8K when we had the bullish divergences on the weekly showing massive signs of strength here with the bull divs confirmed, money flow coming back up before we got anywhere near it, right? Maybe if we started losing 12K, then we could start looking at 8K. So I know it's a little bit hard because the 4-year cycle would indicate, right, that 30K would be the very, very easy target, right? 70, even 32K, 74% correction. Last cycle was about a 76% correction. Through logarithmic regression, the maturity of the asset, the market cap getting higher, the pumps and the dumps get less aggressive over time. So it would make sense to have a little bit of a less severe bear market than we had this time. Doesn't make it impossible to go down lower, but it would just make a lot of sense. And if we pull up some other, let me pull up some of these other moving averages, right? So you have the 50-week, you have the 100-week, and then the 200-week moving averages down here. We have front run this level. At the end of the day, guys, if I hide all this stuff, let me just hide the news here. Right. At the end of the day, we don't typically lose the 200-week for very long, right? We come down, right? I guess we don't have any information here, right? But just kind of assuming you kind of tapped around it here, held it at support, bull run, right? Lose the 50-week, indicated the bear market was incoming to the 100-week, and then eventually revisiting the 200-week. Boom. You kind of slip it here for the Black Swan event, right? Bull run. Back in 2022, lose the 50-week, bear market incoming, literally almost the exact same place where I called for a likely bear market last cycle was almost the exact same place, a little earlier this cycle, so maybe we're improving over time, but almost like the very same place where we likely were indicating that likely the bear market was incoming, right? Lose the 50-week, big capitulations down, you lose the 100-week, massive dump into the 200-week, bada boom, right? You lose it slightly, but again, right, how much did we lose this by? 27%, right? If we lose this by 27%, where would that bring us? Right, 42K, right? So again, I don't want to say it's impossible to lose it to 30K, but it would make a lot of sense, right? Like, is Bitcoin super expensive down here? If you look back to any other cycle, would you have been an idiot to buy near those prices? Well, probably not. Probably not. Probably not, right? So I do just kind of, I think this gives a nice view of kind of just like overall where we kind of sit, right? We're back down towards the 200-week. Doesn't mean that we can't come back down and visit it. Doesn't mean that we can't lose it, right? But again, when you have these massive support levels here, let me get that POC back up. Where's it at? Where's it at? Come on. Kind of have to like finagle this on the Bitstamp chart just because the volume's a bit different. Really? There we go. Right? Well, what happens if we do something similar to this? Right? Bada boom. And again, maybe we see the weekly bullish divergences. Right now, we do not have weekly bullish divergences, at least here on the Bitstamp chart. Is this a little bit different on the Bybit chart? Not really, right? So no weekly bull divs. So there's really no serious bottom signal forming, at least as of right now, unless we get a massive pump from where we are now. Maybe this momentum wave moves up and gives you a higher low. But when we kind of view this, right, like we know we have massive support down below us. We have the 200-week moving average. We've deviated below it before. Right? If we're able to see something, right, man, again, I don't know exactly what this is going to look like. Maybe we get a big retracement, we come back down. In that case, right, maybe you can eventually form some kind of bullish divergence, right? Again, it's a little too far for me to kind of predict that stuff right now. But just to kind of give you guys an overall viewpoint, right? Like even if we do end up wiggling down here, right, those are some things that we can look for. High time frame bullish divergences, and maybe we don't get the bull divs, right? You don't always get the bull divs. I think we did get one here. It wasn't on the weekly time frame, so you can see like we didn't really get it on the weekly here on in 2017, but I do believe you did get some nice like daily bullish divergences back there. All right, so you get the big capitulation down, you get the bounce, and then you kind of just roll back over to tap that 200 week. You get the daily bullish divergences. You get 2-day bull divs there as well. Yeah, not quite. You didn't get the green dot, right? But momentum was coming up as price was coming down. So, you know, this was a gift, right? This was just so clean. We were able to see this before we got the big capitulation. I believe if you, the video that we dropped kind of looking for this was like all the way when we were still back up here. So, you know, I don't know how this is going to play out. But when I say 2026 bottom watch, this is what I mean. Right? At this point, if we see another big capitulation down, especially if it's accompanied by a bearish news event, right? Like this is where people are really going to start giving up on the market. You know, people are going to be kind of like sick of everything. They're already sick and tired of we're sick and tired of this bull market. Altcoins not really performing. A lot of people kind of buying in at the wrong time. You know, this would just be like absolute massive pain. And again, like I don't want to say that it's impossible to see, you know, massive dump back down to like 30K. But it's just not, you know, this is, just look. Generally, again, it doesn't mean you can't go below it. Doesn't mean you can't go below it. Doesn't mean you can't go below it. But at the end of the day, once you approach that 200-week moving average, you are much, much better looking at the market through the lens of starting to look for a bottom to form, maybe DCAing into the market, rather than just saying, all right, bear market's starting, right? Well, bear market's here and accumulation begins. So what I really want to see, guys, is if we're able to chop around here again, it's impossible. I wish I had a crystal ball where I could just say, hey, guys, like we're definitely going to bing bong around here, form the bull div. I just can't say that, right? Because we don't have a lot of information down here. And, you know, one thing I can say is I do prefer the move lower because of the lack of confirmation we have on this low. Like even comparing this to 2017, like from a daily perspective, not even a weekly perspective, it's like if I bring this back into bar replay mode, right, just to give you guys a little bit of an idea, right? Let me come back a little bit further, right? Oh, my God. Oh, we're pumping. Is the bottom in? Is the bottom in? It's like, well, I don't really have anything to look at from a chart perspective, right? Like we don't have the bull divs. What would I prefer in this case, right? Well, I would prefer the same thing that I would prefer right now, right? Which is a lower low to come in for some kind of bullish divergence to form, right? Or some kind of bottom signal, maybe an SFP of the low, right? It doesn't have to be a bullish divergence. And then, of course, right, we wind up coming down. We put in the lower low. We put in the higher low. There's your daily bull div. There's the bottom, right? That doesn't mean that you couldn't have just ripped up from here, right? But if this happens and we wind up just like cooking up from here, and maybe we can look back at an older cycle back here that kind of did end on no bullish divergences. It was just kind of like big wick down, bottoms in, right? You dump it, bottoms in. Cool off, right? Kind of wiggle sideways a little bit. And then you sweep these range lows once more, right? But you do not put in a new low. Just hide this, right? So it's kind of like aggressive dump to the downside. You start to get that boring consolidation. You SFP the lows, bottoms in, right? So there is a possibility, right, that you don't have to see those bull divs form in order to see the bottom, right? And that's why when I come up here, it's like I can't guarantee you that the bottom's not in. I prefer to see the low. In many cases, I will be, you know, more often than not, that will be correct, right? Just because it's just much cleaner. Or I don't even want to say like it's much more likely for me to see this happen, but it's just much more simple for me to say, hey, looks like the bottom's in, right? Because we actually have a signal to look at. We actually have confirmation. In something like this, it's going to be a lot harder to say that the bottom's in when you don't really have those confirmations, right? It's not going to be until you get that sweep of the lows, you get a massive pump above your moving averages or something like that, depending on what you're actually looking at. I'll kind of talk about what I'm looking at here. But if you start getting a massive pump to the upside, now you're starting to show strength, right? You flipped all those major moving averages. You're starting to hold above them. When you look at the weekly money flow, one of the simplest ways to try to identify if the bottom is in, right? You wind up like even here, right? On the dump down, you get the SFP, which very likely would be a place where we'd be looking to take a long position. I probably wouldn't have taken that long saying, oh my God, the bottom's in, I'm long. But we probably would have been able to catch that move. But you can even see here on this next next drop down, money flow is tanking back to the downside. So even here, it's like would have been hard to say like, hey guys, the bottom's in. It would have been like, man, we might go into a deeper red wave, maybe a new low coming. It's not until if you don't get those confirmations that can let you know like, hey, the bottom's in, or at least likely in, you kind of have to wait for that sign of strength, right? And then you see the money flow starting to come up on that pump. Weekly money flow crosses into the green, and this time and time again has a 100% hit rate for marking the bottom, right? Once that weekly money flow crosses into the green, bottom is in, right? Once that weekly money flow crosses into the red, top is in, right? And of course, there's other ways to identify this before you actually get the crossover, but at this point, you're not looking for all-time highs. You're looking for a big capitulation down. Of course, very quickly after that, you get the retracement, and then you lose the 100-week. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the bottom in. But weekly money flow crossover, big capitulation, right? And then that's where you want to accumulate. Weekly money flow crossover, big capitulation, that's where you want to accumulate. 2021, I'll come out of bar replay mode. Weekly money flow crossover, big capitulation, accumulation. Money flow crossover into the red, big capitulation, maybe accumulation, right? There's a reason we look for this stuff. So, what happens if, how do I turn this replay stuff off? Give me 1 second here, guys. Who may just have to deal with that? Where is it? Execution marks. There we go. So what does that mean for our current situation, right? Well, you know, I would love like a 2017 style bottom or a 2022 style bottom, right? And maybe I'll even pull the fractals here, right? I would love a 2022 style bottom, right, where you get nice bullish divergences. Hey, guys, looks pretty good. Weekly bullish divergence, money flow starting to come back up. Then you can say, hey, bottom's likely in. 2017 style bottom. I'll have to pull it from a daily perspective because we didn't get the weekly bull divs. Kind of looks more, I'll be honest, guys. Like this looks a little bit more similar to 2021. I mean, I'm sorry, similar to 2017, right? Take out the low, bullish divergences into key support. Now this low could, you know, come lower, but you would have the bull divs, right? Maybe it's a daily bull div. Who knows? That would be nice and clean, right? But there is a possibility that we don't get those bull divs like we looked at back here in 2015, right? You just get the low, you accumulate, right? Sweep the lows, send it up. In which point, you kind of have to wait for a sign of strength. So that's kind of what we're dealing with, right? So if the bottom's in right now, it's going to be very hard for me to call it, right? Because at that point, if it's going to look something like 2014, I could pull this from a weekly perspective. Right? That would indicate that the low is in. Or not indicate, right? But this assuming, right? Whoops. Right? You get the big drop down, the bottom's in, and you kind of just wiggle around here. Right? There's no real significant technical confirmation to say the bottom's in until you wind up seeing the sign of strength. Right? In which case, maybe this money flow bleeds into the red a little more, and then on that push up, money flow crosses green. The very simple signal here, guys, honestly, with a 100% hit rate, does not mean that it will continue to have a 100% hit rate, but you obviously cannot ignore it, are these weekly money flow crossovers. You know, if I'm not going to get any kind of major technical confirmation down here, it's just kind of a waiting game. Right? Then once we get the money flow at least starting to trend up, you don't have to wait for the crossover, but if you start seeing that money flow start to trend up, you can start to say to yourself, well, hey, now we could potentially look for a much bigger continuation to the upside, which has every single time indicated that the bottom was in. So that's kind of the three situations that we can look for, or actually two, right? My preferred case is, again, the cleaner one, like 2017 or 2022, to see those confirmations form at key support. But if we're not going to see that, it's going to be very hard for me to come up here and say the bottom is in until we start to see that money flow round back and cross into the green. And you might say to yourself, well, if you want to wait for the money flow to cross into the green, well, you could end up getting in really late. Absolutely. But that's why I bring up these moving averages, just to try to show you that, it's not common, right? This is not financial advice. I am not telling you to buy Bitcoin right now. You have to make your own financial decisions. But the reason I'm interested in potentially looking for that early bottom to form is because if we were to see that massive drop down towards 30K, it's not impossible. But we would be losing the all-time high, the previous all-time high by 55%. We'd be losing the 200-week moving average by more than we ever have, in a case where the market cap is higher, where you would technically anticipate the bear market bottom to have a lower percentage number. So these are very speculative thoughts. These are my thought process. Like when I genuinely look at the market and try to make my own decisions, this is the exact stuff that I look at, right? No one's going to be able to tell you bottom's guaranteed in. I wish I knew, guys. I wish I did. But this is like nothing held back, exactly like when I stare at the charts at midnight, and I'm just sitting here like, I have these thoughts too. It's like, all right, like what's this thing going to do? This is what I look at, right? And it's just looking at previous history, looking at the actual data, looking at the confirmations, and, when I just give like unfiltered, raw thoughts on what I look for a bottom to come in, this is what I'm thinking, right? Back here, I was hoping for the bull div. We ended up getting it, right? Back here, I'm going to be doing the same thing. If we can get those high time frame bull divs, money flow comes back up. And of course, if it's a 2017 style, one of the things that I'm looking for here locally, I don't know if it's going to mark the bottom, but it very well could, is if we take that low again, that fractal almost lined up perfectly to give us the daily bullish divergences, right? And then at that point, maybe we can say at least at that point, hey guys, now we can look for a bigger bounce to the upside. Right, because there's something I can actually look at. Here, it's like, all right, well, cool, we bounced, but there was no confirmation, right? There was no daily bull div, no 4-hour bull div, no real significant bottom confirmations. But I do want to be transparent that just like in 2015, right, that doesn't necessarily mean that the bottom is not in. So, from my perspective, I am looking for bottoms. And I don't want to, I try to be very careful when I say this. I'm not saying this is not a subliminal message that I think the bottom is in or anything like that. It's like what I just explained to you is my raw thought process. But to me, it's bottom watch 2026. If I see something like that and we see all those confirmations, I'm not just going to be, but it has to go to 30K. It has to go to 30K, right? We have to get that 70+% drop, right? I will not do that, right? It's the same thing in 2022. I had 12 to 14K marked off on the chart. Once I saw those bull divs, I think the bottom's in, right? And even so, right, I was dollar cost averaging all along the way. So even if we went down to 12 to 14K, it's not like I would have missed the bottom or bought too high, right? I would have just dollar cost averaged down. And then again, looking at these moving averages, I highly recommend you guys get these on your chart. This is, get this indicator. This is free. This has nothing to do with me. I'm not affiliated with these people in any way. But I mean, you could just pull it up yourself with, by actually typing in the moving averages. But this is like very simple. Go get that indicator. Super simple, right? You can go into the settings. You can mark off your significant time frames or significant moving averages. And the nice thing about this is typically when you mark off your moving averages, if you want to look at the weeklies, you got to stay on the weekly. This one, if I go down to the daily, they stay as the weeklies, right? So you don't have to like, where's that moving average? Oh, it's right there. And then you go down to the daily, and then you're looking at the 50-day moving average, the 200-day moving average. So we'll see. Again, I would love to come take out that low so I can at least start talking about, even if it's not the bottom in, right? Like at least start talking about, a better move to the upside. And that's why I say in here, it's like, I don't know, guys, can we get a bigger move to the upside? Maybe. It's just hard for me to put a high confidence level on that because of the lack of confirmation. So I'm kind of like indifferent here. If we get the move up, we have those key levels of resistance. If we get the move down, again, my preferred scenario, it could look just like 2017 potentially. And then if we get down there, guys, and it looks like trash, right, we'll have the information to look at, right? Maybe we get the daily bull div, still looks like trash. At that point, maybe we're just still looking for lower highs and lower lows. I won't know that until we get this price action, which is why I'll go live with you guys and keep you all updated. But that's overall what I'm looking for, guys. I just like you don't want to be a late bull buying on the massive euphoria, Trump launching a meme coin's going crazy. Oh, my God. Here, I don't remember the exact narratives. But everybody's calling for 100K, calling for 100K, calling for 100K, right? Instead of buying in on those bullish situations, right, and enduring the massive move down, you want to or buying on the massive bullish situations. I guess technically if you bought here, you technically would have wound up in profit, but I'm sure everyone buying here was expecting $250,000. Obviously did not come in. You, in the same way, do not want, you want to be buying, right? Not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy Bitcoin. I have to be very clear about that, right? At the end of the day, dollar cost average in here, you lose 47K, right? That's a decision you have to make. Do you want to stop out of those spot bags and wait for the bigger drop? Do you want to weighted dollar cost average in, right? These are decisions you have to make for yourself. But, you don't want to be the person calling for $8,000 when historically you're in an area where Bitcoin is cheap. Get these moving averages on your chart, right? And then if we lose the 200 week, again, like here, oh my God, we lost the 200 week. It's going to 0. It's going to 8K, right? Sure, it's bearish. We get another move down, but you want to avoid that emotion, right? Understand the charts. Understand the information. Understand what has historically played out in the past. And if we are going to get down here, lose 47K and get the big drop, there is very likely you'll just see my tune be different, right? If we get down here and it starts looking good, we'll talk about it. If it's looking like trash, I'll be like, hey, guys, we're starting to get a move down here, but the signals are not there. I'm a little bit sussed out. Maybe we do have to see that bigger drop down. I wish I could come up here and say, guys, there's a 0 chance of 30K. I can't say there's a 0 chance, but I do want to be very explicit that I am interested and hopeful for some kind of, I am looking, right? Not even hopeful. I am actively looking for a bottom to come in here if we get another drop, or, if we don't in the 2015 example. So there you go. That is my full transparent, unfiltered thoughts on what I'm looking for down here from a high time frame perspective. And let me actually pull this up too. Where's that bull market support band, right? This will be more important on the way back up, right? Like, let me hide these moving averages. Right, so you go boom, rejected, you stay below it. This is typically a pretty good indication. The first flip of that bull market support band is honestly usually pretty confluent, I believe, with your weekly money flow crossovers, right? So like even here, you flip that bull market support band, money flow is aggressively coming up. Back here, you were unable to sustainably hold it, but again, the bottom is still in. You get back above it, money flow crosses green. I'm more inclined to look at the money flow because it's so accurate. And then 2021, right? Another thing, again, if we're not going to get those bull divs, I guess whether we get the bull divs or not, but if you're not going to get the bull divs, this might be something to look at, right? Break that bull market support band, you retest it, money flow starts coming up, and you got a little fake out here on the money flow, but once it crossed green, that first crossover is indicative of the bottom being in, right? So you get, and even the trend up if you wanted to try to front run it. So you get above the bull market support band, hey, that's a good sign of strength, money flow coming back up, bottom could be in. In this case, it was very clear to say that because of the bullish divergences. But if it's going to be more of like a 2015 style, right, you start breaking that bull market support band, bottom's in, money flow tried to come up. This was kind of sketchy. I obviously did not have my YouTube channel back here. But, this was a little bit sketchy. But at the end of the day, right, get above that bull market support band, starting to show some strength. You're breaking a high, right? Money flow kind of faked you out there a little bit, but eventually, the bottom's still in, get back above it the second time, bull run. So that could be, again, I want people to be prepared. Like the one thing that would be kind of hard to identify is if the bottom's already in, it's kind of hard to say that right now. We got a fresh money flow crossover on the weekly, no bullish divergences. Like really hard for me to confidently say bottom's in, right? So that's kind of why my preference is to come lower, but not, oh my God, guys, the bear market is starting lower. Hey, let's go lower and finish this thing off, right? So there you go. There's my unfiltered, transparent, full thought process. Nothing held back. There's no secret indicator I'm looking at. There's no secret strategy I'm using. This is exactly what I'll be looking at. Not a lot of people give that away for free. All right, let's see. 70K in the next 24 hours? Potentially. It's not financial advice, but BTC is cheap. Yeah. Could get cheaper, but definitely not expensive, right? I always say this, like when people come in and they're like, I just bought Bitcoin, like, where are the targets? I'm like, man, dude, why? Why did you do that? Mostly people, and not even a lot of people online, right? Like CandleMafia kind of gets the deal, right? Any of the CandleMafia that has been down back here was very well positioned for this bull market, but like a lot of my friends and family texting me up here, I just bought XRP, I just bought Bitcoin. I'm like, oh my God. I don't know what to tell you. Yo, shout out to Golden in the chat. What is going on, Golden? Welcome in. He says, look at that haircut. Smooth looks. Good man. Shout out to Golden. I appreciate you, bro. Drop those golden emojis in the chat. The legend is here. Golden, I hope you're doing well, good, brother. I almost said I hope you're doing well, good. Hope you're doing well, brother. Drop those golden emojis in the chat. Let us know, Golden. What are you thinking? What do you see through your whale goggles? Are we going down to 30K, 8K, 47K, 0? Let us know what you think, brother. Maybe Golden, if you could just maybe just like push this down here, give us a nice bull div, and then just buy it all back up and send us into a bull market. I'd appreciate it. I also don't put that past his abilities. Shout out to Golden. Would a bottom be reasonable with the money flow only being in the red for a couple of weeks? Shout out to Vetrol. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. I'm sure I did. It would be uncommon, which I guess from a statistical probability, right? You could see in 2017, let's just measure it, right? At the end of the day, would it be, I guess, possible? Yes. Reasonable? Let's see. Let's measure it out real quick. I'm going to go crossover to crossover here. 371 days. Maybe I should change this to a much more visible color. $217 days. That's weird. 317, 217. This one was much longer. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if it crosses over green, you could say the 100% hit rate on the money flow is once it crosses green, the bottom is 100% of the time been in. And this one was 371 days. I'm probably just looking too much into it. 317, 217, 371. Bitcoin has weird math, man. 69K top, super memey. But yeah, so, between, call it 200 and 300, 250, 250, 350 days. So, like, would it be, if here's the bottom line, I would say, right? If we ended up seeing this just come back into the green like this, at the end of the day, once it crosses green, the bottom is typically in. So would that be reasonable? Yeah. I mean, if you see the money flow crossover into the green, if the bottom is not in, that would be the first time ever that has happened. So yeah, I mean, reasonable, yes. Common, no. So we'll see, right? And if we measure this to, let's say, like May, 126 days, it would be super perfect if it was like 371 days, 317 days, and then 200 and whatever, 270 days or 217 days. If it was getting like shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, this would line up perfectly with what I would hope for like a May bottom, right? April, May bottom, maybe even earlier. But yeah, I would just say at face value, that crossover into the green would mean something to me personally. So there you go. Shout out to Golden, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Shout out to Golden, gifting 100 Frankie Candles memberships. Whole lot of green in the chat right now. Let's get it. Thank you so much, Golden. Show Golden some love. If you just got a membership, go ahead and use those fresh emojis. You'll see a golden emoji. We're going to start what we call a golden waterfall. Not shower, waterfall. Golden waterfall in the chat. Spam those golden emojis. Golden, thank you so much. Shout out to you, brother. Show Golden some love in the chat. These memberships are not cheap, guys. Not cheap. He's showing love to the Candle Mafia. We appreciate you. Hopefully I didn't miss his chat. Did he tell us what price is going to do or what he's going to do to price? Let's see. I don't see him in here. Golden, let us know, brother. Let us know. Are you going to send it up, send it down? Come on, baby. Let's rip the chat rate. Rip the chat rate up to 250, baby. I think we're at 117 right now. Spam the golden emojis. Slow mode is off. Let's see this thing flow. Let's see this water flow. Waterfall flow. Fall flow. Flow fall. Shout out to Golden, bro. Waterfall indeed. Yes. Waterfalls only, guys. No showers here. We bathe in waterfalls, golden waterfalls. Anyway, thanks, Golden. Let's go. Let's go. There she blows. Look at that waterfall, Golden. The Mafia loves you, brother. The Mafia loves you. Let's go. Look at that, baby. 43 to 35 by Golden. Shout out to Lyndon. I don't know what that means. 43 to 35. He's going to bring us down to 43 to 35. Holy smokes. Oh, he said 43 to 39. That's actually what he said. Okay. So in that case, right, we'll just take that, right? Because I do hear a lot of people talking about like $43,000. Now, for me, from a technical perspective, right, I like to find targets, right? I like to find where those levels are. Is there anything significant that we can look for down there? I'll come back into the local price action in a minute. But let's pull it up here, right? Monthly MPOCs. You know, next one's down at like 37K. So we got no monthly MPOCs. I don't believe we have a weekly MPOC. What's that? 56K. We don't have any monthly levels there. I don't believe. No. Kinda got like a weird monthly there. Let me see this from the 2021 value area perspective. 43K. Let me see the where's that Bitstamp chart? Bitstamp POC sit. Is that at 43K? That would be nice. We can get that POC here at 43K. It's 34, man. Dang. So yeah, you do have kind of like a wonky monthly level down there. Only thing, just trying to find the confluence, right? Like if you were able to come down here, maybe wick below. I'll tell you what, if we hit 43K, right? Now, when it comes to losing the levels, right? If we are going to end up losing that $47,000 POC, I would be okay, right? With the drop down, a wick below, a candle closure above, right? Probably high time frame like the weekly. If we're able to see something like that, that would be okay to get that move down to 43K. In my opinion, right? You would have to be very careful on the retest of that POC, right? A low time frame, you might kind of bing bong around there, but if you can get the weekly candle closure above that, this would look like this on the weekly time frame. That's what I'd like to see if we hit down to 43K. If we hit down to 39K, yeah, I don't really have a lot of horizontal levels there. Doesn't mean that you can't bounce off those levels. You do have a probably this value area low maybe. It wouldn't be as significant as the monthly MPOC, but maybe one of these value area. Yeah, 43K would be the POC of this range. So you do have levels down there. These will be levels that we'll look at once we, if we do have to go down there and play around. It will be levels that are relevant locally. But once we get down there, maybe deviate, tap into 37K. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, right, like the earliest warning sign that we'll have to even deal with 47K will, of course, be the loss of this next major support zone. And I do think even if we're going to lose that eventually, right, you know, maybe these levels don't hold, but, you know, this would definitely be a higher probability area for at least some kind of a bounce. And then on that retracement, we can look at the chart and say, hey, are we looking for lower highs and lower lows? Are we looking for the bottom being in? And there will likely be things on the chart to point that out. So shout out to Golden. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Golden. 43 to 39K, not financial advice. Remember that live stream in November where I said I sold a fat bag and the money flow dipped into the red? I'm buying back at 41K. Shout out to Golden. We're going to leave that right there. Shout out to Golden. Let's go. Yeah, we'll see. I hope that I honestly, I'll be honest with you guys. Also, timing could play a factor in this as well. I kind of want to rip the Band-Aid off, right? Even up here, I was like, screw the 50-week. Like, just rip the Band-Aid off, man. Send us down here. But we'll see. The big first early warning sign that I will start looking down into the 40s will be a break. You know, if we can't hold this level of support and we get accepted into this value area, at that point, we're looking down into the 40s, right? 47K. Then, you know, just if we were down here, right, I would just definitely be looking for what, right? Simple volume profiles. Right? It's like a volume profile masterclass right now. Another volume profile masterclass, right? Here's your big area of value. here's your next big area of value, right? Underneath that, not much, right? Not a ton other than your value area high from 2021. But when we're looking at this local price action, right, we're playing around in this range. If we end up coming down, not being able to deviate, get accepted back in, get a big move to the upside, we get accepted below this, where's the next place I'm going to have to look, right? Well, locally, I can start pulling this next little area of value, which sits conveniently between 44.5 and 40,445. If we came down there, right, once you lose this area of value decisively, right, money flow would be continuing out at that point. Next highest likelihood play or highest probability area for price to go would be to get accepted or start gravitating towards the last previous area of value, which would be sitting down here. Bing bong around in this range. Maybe you deviate below. There's your 39K. Definitely plausible. Shout out to Golden. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we don't have to deal with it. If we do, we'll look down there. And then even if I zoom out here a little bit, where's this value area high? 43K. Very interesting. 39K, right? So you have that value. Like if I were to just pull up all these value areas, I would simply be looking at these, right? Of course, the macro one as well. But impulse, balance. Impulse, small balance. I probably won't be looking at this. Impulse, balance. Right? Price ranges about 80% of the time. Impulse, balance. Impulse, balance. Impulse, balance. Lose balance, impulse. When price impulses, what does it like to do? It likes to gravitate towards previous value, which we've already filled in full. If we lose this, well, balance. If we lose this, balance, right? And then you have the macro perspective of the (2021) macro value area. So there you go. Would line up with at least auction market theory. Shout out to Golden. Let's go, baby. I appreciate you so much, bro. Thank you so much for the super chats, the gifted memberships. Insane. If your name turned green in the chat, that's how you know you got a membership. Let's go. It's kind of like invasive, right? Like you just have this gray name. All of a sudden just like forces you to turn it green. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Shout out to Servando Estrada. Said, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's go. He said it, not me. You're amazing, Golden. Let's go. Let's go. We got to scroll through the waterfall here. When did money flow go into the red this time around? Money flow crossed into the red on the weekly. Right here. Right before the big capitulation. But that is not where we identified that the trend would likely continue down, right? We identified the trend would likely continue down here at the loss of 108K. Why was that? Well, if that weekly money flow, before this weekly money flow was aggressively trending out, we front ran that idea by seeing the 2-day money flow cross into the red right here. Or not even just cross into the red, but also trend to the downside, right? Money flow is a lot about trend, right? If this is big green wave, starts to trend out, lower highs, right? You are clearly trending out. If you don't know if the money flow is trending out, just draw a trend line. Peak to peak. This is clearly trending out. This gives you the early warning sign and the divergences, etc. Massive technical confirmations there that this big drop down on bounces would be retracements for lower highs, lower lows, lower high, lower low. So able to identify that all the way up here, looking at slightly lower time frames like the 2-day, the 3-day, right? 3-day was right here, right? And then as we see that bounce, price pushes down, you get the lower highs, lower lows, right? Weekly money flow starts to aggressively push down. And we were able to kind of identify that, right? Saying, hey, if that 2-day money flow is coming out, we would expect some kind of a significant downtrend. If that happens, this weekly money flow might be on the way out. Timing of the cycles were almost exactly the same, which made us open to identifying this as the top, right? And then, of course, the money flow just plays out perfectly. So there you go. Let's see here. Yo, shout out to OCB said, yo, Frankie, fresh cut, bro. Hope we'll fade the bad trades as well as the one you got. Shout out to OCB. Let's go. I will say, I sat in the barber chair shout out to my barber. I love my barber. Sat in the chair for an hour and 30 minutes. I'm used to New York. New York, you go get a haircut, you're in there for 15 minutes, you get the best haircut of your life, in and out, bada boom, bada bing. They're like kicking you out. They're like, there you go. They smack your head. They're like, you give them the cash, they walk out. Or you walk out. Where I'm at now, it's like you got to like block out a whole day to go get your haircut. Different culture. I was the one that kicked it into the red right then. My bad. Yeah, shout out to Golden. Not going to lie. I low-key don't put that past him. Hey, bro, watch this. Watch this key level. Price just dumps to the key level. I'm like, dang, bro, how much Bitcoin you got? Regulation will make this fly. Shout out to Ruin Walker. Well, Golden, send it back into the green. Shout out to Crypto Paisa. Come on, Golden. Do it early for us. Or at least just let us know right before you do it. Thanks for the quick TA on that, Frankie, and confirming my thoughts on that price range. Shout out to Golden. Is that what you were looking at, bro? Let's go. Shout out to Golden. Just simple auction market theory, guys. At the end of the day, volume moves price. Volume is price. That's why these volume profiles play out so well, right? And again, I recently went back to previous live streams because I'm not going to lie, guys. Sometimes when we look at this stuff, I like to like confirm that when I come up here and say, hey, guys, like, remember when we talked about this? I like to, like, check myself. Be like, we did talk about this, right? And I went back to look at some old live streams, and it's absolutely incredible. And I don't say this to brag. I don't say this to, like, stroke my ego or anything. As you know, like, when it comes to the charts, I have no ego, right? And that's why when I say, like, hey, there's no confirmations down here, and someone says, well, could the bottom be in, right? I have to say, like, just because I want a better bottom structure here does not mean that the bottom can't be in, right? I try to be as egoless as possible. But I went back to look at the live streams, and the amount of times, not only did we talk about it, but the amount of times spending like months talking about the idea of, like, even early, we talked about it back here because there was a case where maybe we could have come down here, right? But of course, we identified the bullish confirmations. Hey, now we don't have to look down here anymore. We can look for all-time highs. We get it, right? All based off confirmation. But the amount of times that we talked about just simple auction market theory. Guys, if we have money, and how do you identify if you're going to lose this value area? You can use money flow, right? You can use money flow on the higher time frames, the 3-day, the 4-day, the 5-day, in this case, the 2-day. You cross into the red at this value area low. When you see that 2-day money flow crossing into the red, what does that indicate, right? If we want to see a higher low for a higher high, you want to see the opposite of this, right? You want to see money flow crossing into the green. It was obviously crossing into the red. This indicates that not only is the trend likely to continue down, but you may be able to get rejected out of this value area, which would mean an impulse to the downside. When price does one of three things, right? It ranges 80% of the time, right? Most of the time, you're doing stuff like this, right? When you impulse, price does one of two things, right? It's either going to create new value, right, which is probably the lowest, least common, right, where you just kind of like coming down to like random level and create new value randomly. It does happen, but not common. The higher probability is that it seeks out fair value or the previous area of fair value. The amount of times that we drew this exact line, it's eerie, and there was a chance it didn't play out that clean, right? But in this case, the amount of times that we drew this out to 2021, if it's going to play out like 2021 and we impulse, very high probability, right? Just based off auction market theory, the way the market actually moves, the market is an auction. It is going to seek out fair value. We get into that range, and it is respected to the dollar. Bounce, acceptance, value area low. This value area is not marked off perfectly, but if I actually pull up the range, you can see, right? Here's your upper value. Very simple. Impulse out of here, very high probability you come fill that range in full. You come down, you bounce, you get accepted, POC, value area low. You can do this too, just like the stream. Let's see. Shout out to Wake589. Said, poor Frankie, we just had Valentine's Day, and he couldn't find anyone to stroke his ego. Shout out to Wake589. Mrs. Candle stroking my ego. Actually, not really. She does a lot. She does not. She doesn't stroke my ego at all. If anything, Mrs. Candles will check me. If she ever sees my, she'll be like, all right, calm down, big guy. Oh, my God, guys, we went to go get Wagyu. We went out to dinner on Valentine's Day. Oh my God, guys. That's only like my third time ever having Wagyu. It is my favorite thing on earth. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Let's see. Could I Ramby the Terra Luna this time? Could it have such a big impact at the moment with all the fear? Shout out to Philip. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of trying to predict the black swans. Obviously, there's a lot going on here. Of course, we had the email thing, right? I don't think I wouldn't consider that like really a massive bearish catalyst. I don't know, guys. I'm so separated from the narratives at this point just because they just prove time and time again to like not really matter, right? Like in this example, Terra Luna collapses. We were looking for the collapse all the way up here, right? Fill in the blank. Chart says this is coming. Whatever the narratives are, fill in the blanks. FTX, Terra Luna, etc. So, I don't know. What were people saying about this, guys? Whereas everyone like, oh, my God, it's dumb because of the emails. I don't know. I saw a few people say that, but I don't know. I wouldn't consider that. If something geopolitically happens, maybe that's a little bit of a stronger narrative. But again, if that does wind up being the case, it's kind of just lines up perfectly with what I would hope happens anyway. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, it would be stupid for me to say the news doesn't do anything. But it would also be stupid for me to say that we can't view the news before it happens on the charts. Obviously, the news is impactful. I think a lot of people from a chart perspective will say, like, the news doesn't matter. It's all a scam. It's all just manipulation, which I'm sure is a portion of manipulation. But I think it's stupid to say the news doesn't matter, right? But it's also, very clear that, I think, like, the most recent, there's been tons of these examples. The most recent example of this, just 1-to-1, is just insane. I covered this before. Back here, we were looking at this volume profile. We shorted where we typically look for shorts, above the value area high on bearish confirmation, which we had. We take the shorts with the anticipation, right? That setup looks something like this. I think I got it on the retracement, right? Being as transparent as possible. I don't just short the top every time, right? Get the retracement. I think that was the case. Looking for this to at least get a rotation to the value area low. We shorted that, call it October 8th. A couple days later, oh my God, Trump tweet. Whee! That's weird, right? Now, I'm not saying that Trump tweet did not cause a big move down and a big liquidation. That would be stupid. But what I can say is, isn't it, and if this was like a one-time thing, maybe it wouldn't be weird. This is just a pattern that we see, not a pattern, but a repeatable process, right? It's like more often than not, when you get that bearish news, right? Well, hey, our short plays out more. That's beautiful. But more often than not, when that news comes out, we're on the right side of the trade. Now, not saying that it's impossible to like have a beautiful short position up here, bullish news comes out and you get stopped out. That'll happen too sometimes, but more often than not, right? Like, and then you can see, like, I was not expecting a big liquidation down to 102K. But where's price settle? Right on the value area low. So isn't that weird, right? I know, I'm not saying the news doesn't mean anything. I'm just saying you can see it on the charts before it happens. It's like, it'll really break your brain once you start to see things like that. And it's happened many other times. I always try to point it out when it happens. So, once you have Wagyu, you don't go back. Yeah, shout out to P-Dub. I love steak. Steak's like one of my favorite meals. But Wagyu, man, it's crazy, man. I just like, people always ranted and raved over it, and I was like, I don't know. I never really was interested in trying it, and then I tried it, and good Lord. It ain't cheap, though, I'll tell you that. What up, Frank? Shout out to H-Bar. Moonboy, shout out to you, bro. Welcome in. Good to see you in here. Shout out to Kodak, said, yes, I said 90K, but nothing changed. The same. So yes, of course, going lower, no confirmation, nothing on the chart. Yeah, no confirmation on the chart. But again, we didn't get confirmation really, didn't get any technical bottom confirmation in, there's like two ways to do it, right? Like even when you're looking to enter a trade, right? There's like always two ways to enter a trade, right? Which I'll just use the volume profiles, right, as an example, because this is oftentimes the context of our trades, right? Two ways to enter a trade, right? Within a volume profile, you can look for a deviation for a failed auction type setup, often marked by a bottom signal. Many bottom confirmations you could look for, but we'll just use a bullish divergence as an example. You could look to enter on that bullish divergence, right? Stops below the low, and then look for that to ride up through the volume profile. Key levels of resistance in that case are going to be the value area low, the POC, the value area high, right? If you do not get a bullish divergence or any kind of bottom signal like this, it's going to be really hard, right? Because for me personally, I look, and oftentimes you'll have a key level down here below the value area to tap into to put those confirmations in on. But if you come down to this key level, right, let's say if your key level of support here, if you come into that key level and you just kind of tap it and bounce, there's no confirmation. 3 things I like to see for a trade: key level tapped, entry confirmation, confluence, right? That's what I would consider an A+ setup, right? If you don't have confluence, I would consider it like a B minus, right? Maybe a C, depending on the actual situation. But if you just come in and tap on that level, you don't have a bullish divergence. For me personally, oftentimes, unless I take it like an aggressive entry, which sometimes I do, it's kind of hard to say like, oh, hey, this is going to be a nice bounce. Bottom confirmation's there. Let's rotate through the profile. It's kind of hard to say that if you have no bottom confirmation. Now, technically, some people will just enter aggressively off a nice reaction, which you could do. But if let's say you don't have the bottom confirmation, oh no, I missed the move. Why'd you miss the move? You didn't have your confirmation. That's fair, right? But that does not mean, right, although I would say it's higher probability if you have a bottom confirmation, higher confidence that you'll get a bigger move. But if you don't get it, right, what can you then look for? You can look for a sign of strength, right? Either a break above market, change in market structure, right? Or in this case, on a value area low, you could wait for the flip of the value area low. Now, of course, your entry won't be as good, right? But you could also consider that a little bit of a safer trade because you've already shown a little bit of a sign of strength. So it's kind of the same thing when you talk about the macro bottoms, right? It's like, like I said, in 2022, it was very clean, right? You had the massive bullish divergences on the weekly, right? At that point, it's like, well, cool. That looks like the bottom might be in. Money flow comes up. Yep, looking really likely the bottom is in. Bada boom, right? But bring it back to what we just looked at in 2015. You kind of have to wait for that sign of strength, right? Which you could look at breaking above your market structure or breaking above key levels such as the bull market support band, moving averages, just resistance in general, right? You get the breakout, money flow flips green. There's your sign of strength, right? Now, at the end of the day, if you had a bull div down here, you could have gotten an entry down here, right? And again, obviously wouldn't look at this as like a leverage trade. Oh my God, don't have your stop loss down there. Good Lord. But if you had a bullish divergence, right? Let's say whatever, you get the low and then you get a lower low, right? You get like a nice entry there for a nice run up into the bull market. Whoops. What the heck? Nice run up into the bull market, right? So your entry's like down here. But in that case, you did not have a bottom signal. If you wanted to, if you're someone who's just waiting to drop your whole bag in, which I don't recommend at all, it's much better, in my opinion, it's just dollar cost average in, right? Because that could kind of protect you from not getting those confirmations. At least you're exposed to the market. But if you were just like waiting for a bull div to dump your whole bag and you didn't get it, you could wait for that sign of strength. Sure, you're not getting as good of an entry as if you had that bottom signal, but you still get a massively profitable position, right? So from a trading perspective, from an investing perspective, you can kind of look at the same kind of theories. Confirmation on what time frame? Shout out to D Toro. Depends on what you're looking for. I wouldn't be looking for like a 5-minute confirmation to call the bottom of a bear market, but it depends on the context of your trade. V-shaped recoveries are the worst. Yeah, it is a painful thing, right? Because it really means a lot of people are going to miss that. So yeah, I hopefully kind of showed you guys the different ways that you can have this play out and like kind of how I base my confidence, right? Shout out to Pennywise, everybody's favorite clown in the chat. We think he's friendly. Shout out to Pennywise. Welcome in, brother. Shout out to Daniel, said these are the most difficult moments for me to be in the market. If it's so difficult to trade, I only see McDonald's everywhere. Shout out to Daniel. Shout out to BB. Shout out to BB. Said, do you have a video about what confirmations? Yeah, go check out the beginner series playlist. you'll get like a top-down view of just general things. I cover some entry triggers in there, I believe, on the Fibonacci video. I talk about like setting key levels and looking for certain confirmations. At the end of the day, there's many different confirmations you can look for. I don't look at all confirmations. For me personally, my favorite ones are bullish divergences and SFPs, all taught in the beginner series. Now, one thing you do have to understand about entry triggers is it is not just a one-time thing, right? It's not as easy as just understanding what a bullish divergence is and then just trading every divergence. You have to understand context. You have to understand key levels. You have to understand trend, market structure. You have to understand all these things because, yes, right, like someone asked me a while ago, would you trust a 3-minute bullish divergence? At the end of the day, yes, I would trust a 3-minute bullish divergence, but depending on the context of it, right? Like more often than not, right? I would recommend this if you want to learn about divergences, just go back in time in bar replay mode and just look at every divergence and see if it plays out. So for example, right here, you have a 3-minute bullish divergence. Lower lows, higher lows. You get a bounce to the upside, right? And a continuation. Right, but you also had your money flow coming up, right? If you had, let me try to find a situation where there's a bull div that may not play out beautifully, and I bring up the lower time frames because then like people are just going to go to the 1 minute and be like, oh my God, there's so many divergences, I could just trade these all day. You do have to be careful, right? There's times where a bullish divergence would be expected to play out in a big way, and times where you would expect them to give you a small bounce for a continuation down. Maybe this is an example right here. Not perfect. Okay, everybody calm down. What just happened? I don't know what the heck just happened there. But, you know, it's not always going to be, you have to understand the context. Like right here, I mean, that's not even really a clean, I want to show like a very clear example. Right, so here, oh my God, lower lows on price, higher lows on your momentum weights. Very easy thing to see, right? And here's the thing, right? I would say dang near 85, maybe more % of the time, if you have a bullish divergence, price will go up in some way. That's not an actual statistic. This is just like what I would think from my experience, right? Like very unlikely that there's a bullish divergence that just like melts through. It does happen. But here you have lower lows, higher lows. There's your bullish divergence. You get a pop up, but only to continue down, right? And what do you have here, right? Money flow is crossing into the red, making you anticipate high, low, lower, high, lower, low, right? Money flow indicates the overall trend. When you start to combine these things together, it can be very powerful, right? So in an environment like this, whether you're looking at the daily, the 3-minute, or anything, doesn't mean you can't long this bull div, right? But you just have to understand that if the overall context of the market is that you are going to continue a downtrend, that bull div is going to be, if you take a trade off that, right, it's going to be looked at as a scalp for eventual lower highs and lower lows to come, for a break of structure to the downside. Right? Where's that lower high likely to come in at? Well, this is where I pull my Fibonacci retracements from the previous lower high to the low. You didn't get the full tap there. So, you know, obviously you can always pull your fibs to the lower highs, right? But at some point, right, in this case with money flow coming out, I probably wouldn't even trade this. But if I did, I would be very cautious. I'd probably be looking at this Fibonacci retracement. Be like, okay, little pop to the upside, taking some profit, right? Let's go to the lower high, maybe take some more profit, right? At this point, this fib and this fib would be the major ones to look for a lower high and a lower low. So you do just have to understand context. There's no thing that's as easy as just seeing one thing and just making every trade profitable. So I do want to be transparent about that. And then, you know, SFPs are another one of my favorite entry confirmations. So there you go. And there's also tons of other confirmations you can look for, right? Some people just look for a tap of a level and a good reaction. And just to kind of show this on current price action yesterday, come on down to the 30-minute here. Yesterday, part of my long position here was based off of bullish divergences on the 5-minute, right? We get the tap, we get the bullish divergences, we take that trade, but what was that viewed as? A scalp for a lower high and a lower low, right? In the context, right? let me pull up the Discord here, right? As a scalp into that value area low, right? Because obviously I was not super hyped on these levels, right? We're in a bearish environment, got to be careful, right? So yes, we take that little long position, but we understand that it's very likely going to be a lower high and a lower low, right? And I could assume, I don't remember the exact retracement level, but pulling the main retracement levels here, and then the next one would be either from this high, right, or this high. But you can see you rejected. You have your high, low, lower high, lower low. Pull it from the lower high. Golden pocket 786 retracement. High probability area to put in a lower high before a lower low. Major resistance. And then you also had your major value area low there as well. So doesn't mean you can't long it, but you have to have that viewpoint of when you're taking a scalp and when you're taking a big, oh my God, this looks really good on all the higher time frames. Everything's rolling up. Let's get a massive move, right? That's not always the anticipation when we take a long. Sometimes people will come in here and be like, hey, why is this guy long? Like, it's super bearish. It's like, well, it's my content. I understand that, right? But I can make money on this move, right? You can make a lot of money on these moves. As long as you're not just holding them for massive moves up, hoping, right? Not understanding that you're approaching key resistance. Best free content on YouTube. Shout out to Zombie Fish. That's what we do here, baby. That's what we do. Let's see. Shout out to Bless, says, except for the Zcash setup you gave in the premium, can you show any recent altcoin setups you gave that end up playing out? Also, do you have stop loss and take profit levels? Always. Shout out to Bleh. I give my overall anticipation, right? Because your take profits could differ. Oh, that's why this is freaking out, because of the bull market support band. Your take profits and stop losses are going to be dependent on your position sizes and your entries. So, of course, like I'll give, always in the context, typically of a volume profile, right? Value area low, hold the value area low. The next major target would be the POC. Inside a volume profile, TP1 is always going to be the POC. TP2 is always going to be the value area high. Whether you want to take partial profits here, right? At the end of the day, if you catch a move from here to here, you're happy with that money, you want to close the whole trade, that's totally fine, right? But usually the overall anticipation, if you have a clean setup, which we haven't had in quite some time here, would be to get to the value area high. And then at that point, that's typically, the full play of the volume profile trade. At that point, you could take maybe 40% out, close the whole trade, or take, 40, 50%, hold the rest for a potential runner. Once you get up here, you can identify if you think price is going to run. You could decide whether you think it's a high probability for a continuation. If so, you could hold a portion of that trade. But that's really like a personal trader decision. At the end of the day, if someone just wanted to be super conservative and be like, hey, I don't even care if we rotate this whole profile. I just want the POC. You could just rip those. Altcoins, I'm not really interested in trading altcoins right now, to be quite honest with you. Anytime I see like a good setup or I am looking for a trade on an altcoin, I always do post it. But altcoins, I'm not really as interested in right now. And as beginner trader, I would always recommend the master asset, right? Which in crypto is Bitcoin. At the end of the day, there are outliers within the altcoins, right? You can have like a random altcoin just do randomly really well. But for the most part, like finding those outliers is going to be like far and few between. And for the most part, you could have a beautiful setup on an altcoin. And if Bitcoin decides to dump, that setup's probably not going to play out on the altcoin anyway, because most altcoins are just going to follow Bitcoin's price action. So yeah, like especially right now, I'm much more interested in just trading Bitcoin. Let's see. Do I remember Harmony 1? Yes, I do remember Harmony 1. Can you explain trailing stop loss? Yeah, a trailing stop loss is, you could trail your stop loss up or down manually, or a lot of exchanges offer like auto trailing stop losses. I don't ever use those, but a trailing stop loss would just be for example, take a trade at a key level, right? Say that's your entry. Price pushes up, starts flipping support. You're in profit, right? You would just, obviously your stop loss would be at break even. And then once you're at break even, you can start moving your stop loss into profit. Maybe you move it below this low. That way, if you stop out, right, you're getting stopped out in profit, right? If price just continues up, right, flip support again, continues up, right, you can eventually just continue to trail your stop loss up more. And then you can go trail your stop loss up more and more and more, right? So that's just like trailing stop loss, right? I never use the automatic stop loss, trailing stop losses, but you could always just do it manually. Just move that stop loss up, move that stop loss up, move that stop loss up, right? Making the worst case scenario for the trade better and better, right? Here, worst case, you get stopped out in small profit. Worst case here, you get stopped out in more profit. Move it up more, stopped out in more profit, and then you can kind of like maximize your gains that way. So there you go. Let's see. What indicator for the money flow to use? This is Market Cipher. All right, so let's see here. Are we rejecting the 6.5 level of the last move up? Doesn't seem like price action wants to go above. So yeah, let's pull up the local price action here. Of course, right? Just like can't wait to get a move here because this is just, ugh. I made some money yesterday, but just gross price action here. So within this, within our local range here, volume profile perspective, again, typically, guys, this is like a pretty high probability trade setup. I would put in It's just because of the context and the confluence here, and like the lack of confluence on these key levels. Again, doesn't mean you can't capitalize on these moves up and make some money, but within this context, from a volume profile perspective, right? Bull divs at the low. If you could hold above the value area low, even if we cool off, like I said, I covered this in the beginning of the stream. I'm not going to guarantee that you're going to get this full pullback or not. Price could just get choppy. You play around with the value area low, get back in, flip it to support. At the end of the day, you got to hold this value area low as support in order to keep the POC open as a target. If we get a big correction down or, whatever, relatively big correction of 1%, this is the level you have to hold. This is the line in the sand. If you lose the 786, it's 65,900. That's where I'm looking for a new low to be made. Until then, right, like maybe we can hold a higher low. And then at that point, like you still want to get accepted into this profile. At the end of the day, this is your doorway to higher price targets. So we're still above this value area low, of course. When did we start here? 3. Like we've just been bing-bonging sideways. But if we could hold inside this profile, which of course is never guaranteed, but again, there's ways to identify that, like the setup I explained here, being a scalp. This is what you got to do. You got to stay inside here. You have the bull div on the 1 hour. You have the 2 hour bull div, right? I just, you're fighting money flow here for a big retracement back up, right? If 2 hour money flow is crossing into the red, right, or in the red generally, if you did get a move up, like what are the biggest key levels of resistance? Like I said, if you get a big push up, right, POC is your next target. This is pretty confluent level of resistance. You have your golden pocket POC. You could, of course, pull from your lower highs, pull to this lower high, golden pocket 786 sitting right in here. So maybe this is a more tangible zone of resistance in case you don't make it all the way to the POC. If I had to make, local targets to the upside, right, this would be target or zone number 1, which incorporates the POC at 68,350 to 69,136 to the 786. And then, you can maybe pull the local and then like the hyper local, right? Right now, we're above our previous move's 786. Holding above that 786 would also invalidate the idea of a lower high. Now, we'll see if we can close. Yeah, we'll see if we can hold this, right? Like this is, 2 key levels you want to break above here. All right, if you're looking for a low, or a low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, if you're looking for something like this, right? None of this is going to be 100% play out, right? Sometimes you could play with the 786 and lose it, right? That's just the reality of the market. But overall, right, if we could hold on top of that 786 value area low, that would invalidate where's the likely place locally here for a lower high. It's within this golden pocket 786, right? So if we could hold above this, that would invalidate the idea of a lower high. Whoops. That if I were looking for a lower high here, this would be the key resistance for a lower low. If we hold above it, right, not only does the holding the 786 invalidate the idea of the lower high, and typically that's where I'm looking for higher highs, but also it keeps you within your volume profile. But again, there's a lot of nuance to this, right? With the 30-minute money flow, right? Like, again, this is just super choppy, guys. This is like just very, very hard to read. But, right, if you get a bigger pullback, at the end of the day, right, this 30-minute money flow being in the green, I don't know if you come all the way down here, I don't know if this is going to stay in the green. You could do something like that, right? And in order, because you don't know, right? Even if this is a lower high, you don't know if the trend is going to change to an uptrend, right? Like, sure, this 786 golden pocket is where you would look for a lower high, but you don't know if that lower high is definitely going to end in a lower low. This is what I use money flow for. Now, again, money flow is very choppy here very clearly, right? But if I had money flow in like a nice green wave, freshly crossing into the red, this would be a high probability lower high for a high probability lower low. When you have chopped up money flow like this, it's kind of a crapshoot, right? Because it's like, yeah, sure, if you reject here, it could be a lower high, but if money flow is coming up, which again, it's not clean with a red wave crossing into the green. It's like very choppy here. Again, like there's just going to be times where you have low probability environments. But if you reject this, you don't know if it's going to be a lower high for an eventual trend change, right? And then, oh my God, look at that. Head and shoulders. Oh my God. So that's definitely possible as well. But again, like this is like a low probability trading environment in my opinion. It's very similar to the macro environment here, right? Everybody is saying, high or low, how are you bearish? This is a higher low. Don't you understand market structure? No, I don't know what market structure is. No, everybody sees this as a higher low, which is true. It is a higher low, right? But you don't, not every higher low will end in a higher high, right? Trading is not that simple, right? Yes, uptrend, low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Trade with the trend, of course, right? I think everybody knows this. In an uptrend, you're better off looking for longs at the lows than massive shorts at the highs, right? But, right, and within a bull market, right, low, high, higher low, better off longing this, better off longing this, better off longing this, better off longing this. But eventually the trend changes, right? And that's where you want to start looking at money flow. And here you can see we have a very clear money flow wave. And this is high time frame, right? Massive green wave, slowly trends out, right? This is obviously bearish money flow. We were looking at this like a hawk. So as we're bouncing around here, this money flow is about to cross into the red. What do we say? We say, hey, there is probably a higher probability that this higher low is not going to end in a higher high. It is probably going to end in a lower high and a lower low, right? So that first lower high, lower low scenario is a little bit hard to predict. Now, when we come back down here to the lower time frames, you know, this is a difficult situation, right? The simple thing I can say is generally you want to hold on top. Like, I don't know if this, like, this is a downtrend, right? You have your high, your low, your lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, right? Technically, you could anticipate a lower low if you had clean money flow, right? If you had, now you have money flow kind of just bing bonging around here. You're in a red wave, you're in a green wave, red, green. So it's just difficult to say if this is going to be a lower high for a lower low. It could just be a lower high for a small pullback and a change of trend. Just like up here, right? It could just be a small pullback for a lower high and a lower low. Kind of the opposite of what I just showed, right? Obviously in the flip scenario. So hopefully that makes sense. Very kind of confusing situation down there. So don't get too twisted on that. But from a theory perspective on the volume profiles, bull divs at the low, flip the low, push into the POC, golden pocket, POC 786. That would be like general levels. There's no guaranteeing that we could get up here, right? And I can't sit up here and mark off every single intermediary level like on the live stream, right? It just gets way too confusing for people. So, you know, I might say here like, hey, if we hold above here, we can go to the POC, right? And if I took a long there, right, I could say, hey, guys, tomorrow I can come up on the stream and be like, oh, cool, made profit on that. And people are like, what the heck? We didn't get to the POC. Of course, you should never just be using me to make your trades. Of course, you want to learn these strategies over time, understand probabilities. But I might make money on that trade because I see a local level here that we were very likely to reject, right, before getting into the POC. I can't say that a rejection here is very likely yet because I don't know what the price action looks like. If it happens live, I'll be able to talk about it live. But, when I look at the 2 hour here, even here, 2 hour fresh money flow crossover into the red, 1 hour trying to cross into the green, right, with a 16-hour green dot. Super choppy environment, guys. That's why I say if you're a new trader, I would just wait for the bigger levels, as I said on yesterday's live stream. If the chart does not give you a higher high and a higher low, just flip the chart. Trust the process. Shout out to Kodak. Alt-I. Shout out to Kodak. That's right. We did that all back here. Nobody wanted to hear about the bearish case. So what do we do? Invert that sucker. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. Money flow's coming into the flip it to the upside. In that case, I would be super bullish. But of course, that was not the case. We had to invert the chart to see that. And for Mac Command I. That's right. Trump is live. Watch for pumpage. Let's see. Let's fix that money flow. 15-minute banging back down to the downside. 24-minute in the green. 30-minute in the green. Let's see. Red dot's probably going to give you a move down regardless. Right, I could try to show like even here, right? You had the bull divs, you come back up, right? You do play with the level, right? Now, there's a few different things you can look for here. Depends, right? A lot of people, what they look for is 2 30-minute candle closures above the value area low. For me personally, right? Like, for example, for my long position here, I would, if you see that bull div, right, more often than not, I'm in near the lows here. So this kind of goes back to what I explained before, right? And, of course, the full play there would be to look to rotate the value area, right? You get the higher time frame bull divs. You maybe get some low time frame bull divs in here, something like that, whatever it is. If your entry is down here, right, at that point, right, you're already in profit here, right? So it's like, and again, it's like, I think a lot of people are looking for like, but what if you come down here and then go up? Or what if you come up and then you come back down? And like, at the end of the day, you have to have the invalidation for your trade. So if I entered here, right, my invalidation's below the low, at that point, right, I'm just floating in profit. If we bang bong around, whatever, no big deal. Even if we went down for a full golden pocket retracement here, right, I'm still in my trade. I go back to break even. Maybe I go into drawdown. But at the end of the day, right, I'm not micromanaging that trade on the 1 minute time frame. Oh my God, maybe I should get out. Maybe I should get in, right? Like my thought process is I at least want to wait for the POC for a first take profit. In certain cases, maybe I'm looking for a first TP at the value area low, but I'm not going to confuse everybody with that. At this point, people will be like, well, what do you do if it comes back down below the value? Or shouldn't you just close the trade for profit? It's like, no. This is the plan for my trade. If it doesn't play out, I will stop out for a small loss. You're not going to win every single trade. So don't try to hunt for that. Like, how do I know if it's going to guaranteed go up? You're going to get stopped out. Sometimes that's the name of the game, right? Or just a part of the game. The key is to not to get wrecked every time you get stopped out. It should be a controlled loss. If you wanted to take a long at the value area low, this is still valid, right? You could wait, again, for like a sign of strength, right, which would be the reclaim of the value area low. In this case, people would be, oh, my God, we're losing the value area. Oh, my God, now I'm going to draw it. What do I do? What do I do? Right? Well, have your plan. Set your risk. Something I was telling the premium today was if you take a trade like this, right, you could do two things. Right. Number one, you could either just, if you want a bigger position size and you don't think you're going to break the local higher lows, maybe you could scoot your stop loss up here, take a bigger position size. Right. Or you could just keep your invalidation below that low. Now, this is not a great risk to reward for me personally. I like to go for much more of a risk to reward here. That's why I like to get my entries down towards the low, give a way better risk to reward. But if you took this is still a valid volume profile trade. Right? Not as good of an entry. And if you want to have your stop loss below this low, that's fine. You just have to lower the position size to account for the bigger stop loss. Right? If you want to take a bigger position size, well, guess what? You could do that, but it's going to come at the the trade-off of having a higher stop loss, right? So maybe you get a higher probability of getting stopped out, but if you want the bigger position size with the same amount of risk, you have to lower that stop loss, right, or raise that stop loss. If you want to keep your stop loss down here, that's totally fine. You just have to take a smaller position size. And then if price loses the value area low, that's fine. You could say to yourself, hey, if I'm not going to get stopped out, I'm hoping that we hold that golden pocket 786. And if it comes down here, you're not freaking out. You're just saying, all right, well, hold that 786. If you don't, you get stopped out, right? That's fine. You're going to lose trades sometimes. Simple part of the process. Let's see. Altcoins are dead, at least for a while. We won't see anything until closer to zero. Shout out to independent crypto. Yeah, I haven't really been spending a lot of time on the altcoins. It's just I think a lot of people are just waiting for me to say, bottom's in, send it to $1 million. But I'm just not as interested in altcoins right now. I mean, maybe we could take a look at some of the bigger altcoins. But again, like even here, right, it's like Ethereum. We're in the same situation we were in yesterday. Key levels all remain the same. I just have like nothing to say here. I just don't want to waste the time because like I think 90% of the people in here just already know what we're looking at here. Line in the sand, 786, Fibonacci retracement. Lose the daily 786 at 1834, looking for a break of the lows. Your next big key level of support, PLC 1635, down to the daily at 1576. If we get the push to the upside first, right, my main areas of interest here would be down here and down here. Down here and up here. Doesn't mean you can't pull all the local levels, but I'm just not interested in scalping Ethereum like that right now. So we already did get the golden pocket retest. So if we lose that, right, 786 is very likely. And then lose that, right, I'd be looking, I mean, again, you're also still below your value area high. All right. Until we break out of the value area high, right, there's no real reason that we're going to come up here, obviously, right? So this is the biggest level of resistance to break above, $2,011. Right, if we can't break above there, right, well, POC becomes a very strong magnet based off the volume profile. And it's the same thing for Bitcoin on a higher time frame, right? Of course, we can, dissect these lower time frames. This is kind of like all I have to talk about right now because, of course, we've covered the higher time frame levels so much, right? I've already covered them in this stream. Right, but within the medium time frame for Bitcoin, right, like you're below the value area high, you're also below the POC. Right, so it's like if you can't get above that point of control, right? Well, overall, again, we have all the local levels we just looked at, but over time, right, value area low could be likely. So let's see. Trump is speaking. Apparently, it's not doing anything. Well, there we go. Shout out to Dave Digital, said Ethereum. I don't want to waste my time. Shout out to Rudy in the chat. What is going on, Rudy? What is going on, brother? Welcome in. Can we talk about Aster? We could try to take a look at Aster. But again, like my overall sentiment here is like I just don't personally think I could pull up some maybe key levels, but like even the key levels I wouldn't necessarily be super amped on. Let's see here. We haven't looked at this in quite some time. These are super old levels, super old level. Still, you can even see here, right? Like we have not looked at this in forever. Let me just change this. This is going to bug me. Bada boom. All right, so you have your volume profile here. Kind of funny because we didn't have to really talk about this for a very long time, but what happens? You get accepted back into your value. Volume profile gets respected. It's wild. Absolutely wild. Well, let me just zoom out here real quick. Right. So you got a pretty nice bounce off the lows here. I mean, I'll give you these local levels, right? Obviously, you bing bong around, you create this value, you lose the value, you come back up, bearishly retest the POC value area low, which is probably almost certainly a golden pocket 786. There's your golden pocket confluence. And if you come up to a higher time frame, right, I guess all this money flow had been in the red, but you wind up losing your value dramatically. You wind up getting a big impulse to the upside. What does price do? It reseeks previous value. You get a move up, flip the value area low POC to support, right back up to the value area high, back to the POC, back to the high. Now we're back at the value area low. You don't have any 1 hour bull divs down here. No 2 hour bull divs, no higher time frame bull divs. Even your 4 hour money flow is trending to the downside, at least as of right now. So from a 4 hour perspective, I would say your biggest level or biggest key level to look at here, obviously your value area high would be valid, but this golden pocket 786, right? This money flow is going across red. You would anticipate this downtrend to kind of start. And if you get a big push up into the golden pocket 786, this would be the place to look. Maybe you wick into the value area high. I wouldn't really be getting too excited until you flip that value area high. 786 is, from a Fibonacci perspective, the key level to invalidate the lower high. But again, when you see this money flow coming to the downside, right, the anticipation overall is bounces are to be lackluster for lower highs and lower lows. Whoops. See if you might have gotten some low time frame bull divs in here. Yeah. Of course, wouldn't be looking to enter late there. But yeah, you get some 15-minute bull divs into the low, right? Again, bull divs are very likely to give you some kind of bounce to the upside, especially when you push it into a value area low and get the deviation, get back above the POC. Yes, from a volume profile perspective, you can technically target the value area high, but I would definitely be careful around that golden pocket 786. If you're happen to be long from down there. 73 cents to 75 cents is the golden pocket 786, and then above that, your value area high is 76. Yeah. From a higher time frame perspective, obviously massively weak. Man, that range is so far away now at this point. So there you go. Quick look at Aster locally. Daily money flow, trying to trend up. But again, 5 hour money flow, 6 hour money flow, 8 hour money flow in the red. You might get that 8 hour green dot as well, similar to Bitcoin with the 30-minute money flow crossover. So if you get a pullback, you could potentially look, I like this POC golden pocket 786 for a potential early high or low. So if that 30-minute red dot prints, if you can get a cool off, that would be support, right, for a potential continuation of that local trend, right? If you're going to get that 4 hour to continue you up for a lower high and a lower low, locally that could be something to look for. Again, not financial advice. I wouldn't be even interested in trading this. Not to say you can't. But yeah, like 30-minute red dot looking to print, probably going to cool off a little bit. This would be a key level to hold, right? And then the line in the sand for a new low to come in would, of course, lose the value area low 786, right? So we'll see. I just wish this would move right now. Shout out to Dave Hagen, who said, I'm kind of distracted. I just found out Trump kind of admitted aliens are real and chastised Obama for sharing classified information in an interview. Shout out to Dave Hagen. I've kind of been waiting for them to just tell us aliens are real. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I think there's probably a statistical certainty, absolute certainty that aliens are real somewhere. If the universe is actually infinite, it is a factual 100% absolute certainty that everything exists then, right? But I don't know. Are they here? Probably super low probability. I don't know. Aliens are real. Did he really say that? Is that true? Aliens are def real. Yeah. Yeah, Project Bluebeam. I don't want to say any of this too loud just because I don't know if YouTube likes it. Golden is an alien. He's an alien at making money with Bitcoin, that's for sure. Shout out to Saeed. Said, Frankie, long time no see. Shout out to Saeed. Welcome back in, brother. Happy to see you. Did he really mention aliens? Let us know. Aliens from this earth, not outer space. I think there's a good argument for that for sure. Do you think aliens are real? Let me know, guys. Let me know. Guys, I'm not going to lie. I might have to go run to I got to pee really bad right now. It's a very rare Frankie Candle's bathroom break. But as he continues to speak, we'll keep an eye here on the price action real quick. Come on here. Come on. Pull up the local levels. Playing with the value area low. Got VWAPs rolling over on the lower time frames. Not impossible to pull back here. Where the Guardian said, Frankie said Project Blue Bean Channel Strike. Yeah, I don't know. Talking about crypto probably doesn't help us out either, but yo, the Christian Mello with the great dude. Out of pocket, bro. Out of pocket. Aliens are real. Okay, all right. That's your age catching up to you, Frankie. Shout out to Gary C. Come on, Trump, say something wild. Give us some kind of volatility. There's definitely foreign beings out there. Yeah, I would say, if I had to bet my life on it, I would say out there somewhere, whether they're here or not, out there somewhere, probably guaranteed. Assuming everything we know about the universe is true. They live in the ocean. Yeah, I mean, what is it? There's like a good portion of the ocean that is like a large, I think majority of the ocean is unexplored, which is kind of crazy. They say we know more about outer space and other solar systems than deep depths of the ocean. And if you've ever seen anything in the dark, deep depths of the ocean, kind of makes sense. They like light up and stuff. It's like, ever see those crazy jellyfish? TA on LYN. All right, I'm gonna take a bathroom break real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll take a look at a couple of altcoins, and hopefully we can get some. Hopefully we could get some dang volatility here if Trump keeps talking. But I'm gonna play Rudy's song right now for you guys while I take the bathroom break. I'll BRB, and I'll put you on the 1 minute chart, so it actually looks exciting if something happens. All right, I'll be right back. This song, guys. Shout out to Rudy. Rudy made this. Show Rudy some love in the chat.
Frankie, light it up. Screens glow green on a Monday. Frankie in the chat like Conway. Lines on the chart like a runway. Whole squad ready for the uptake. He don't chase punks, he erase fear. Reading that flow, see it real clear. Zone by zone, put the plan in gear. Hit, take profit, then we disappear. Big wicks, he don't even flinch. Red bars, that's a bargain bin. Talk size, talk risk, talk win. Same grind every day, same man. CandleMafia, candles up. Frankie call it price zero. Boom. Money flow, heavy, that's us. And Frankie we trust, and Frankie we trust. CandleMafia, run that play. Limb talk, we don't gotta say much. Push now, green way, pushing our way. And Frankie we trust, and Frankie we trust. Hey, Frankie say wait for the flow switch. We don't FOMO, that's broke shit. Watch that river go thick, rich. Ride that tide, then we cash in. He see traps in a low range. He see caps where the highs hang. He mark boxes like code names. Whole map in his mind like war games. Late night shot with the squad on mute. He call level, we call loop. Stack stats, that's the real proof. Receipts in the chat, that's true. CandleMafia, candles up. Frankie call it price zero. Money flow heavy, that's us. And Frankie we trust, and Frankie we...
Yo, that song, bro. That song is fire. And look at that, guys. I walk off camera for 5 seconds, and we get the push down. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm not going to lie, guys. I don't plan that. Like, I don't see something on the chart. I'm like, I got to go pee. I bet it moves, right? Like, to try to, like, create engagement. That just happens. I don't know why that happens. But, of course, we see that 30-minute red dot. Not impossible to pull back here. All of a sudden, Trump starts talking. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? Shout out to Rudy. That song is insane, bro. Hit, take, profit, then we disappear. Skirt. Candles up. Let's go. Boom, he left. Boom, he left, and it blows the bottom. Shout out to JJ. Yeah, I don't know why this happened. Frankie just got liquidated. That's right. We just liquidated the bowels, I guess. Right? Is the bowels for I feel like bows is usually used. Is your bows both, or is it just number 2? I don't know. Wash them hands. I haven't washed my hands in 2 years. Shout out to Golden. Thank you for the super chat, bro. Dude, insane, bro. Shout out to Golden. Showing a lot of love this stream. Says, yes, aliens are real, and there's a good chance we will end up seeing them in our lifetime as we approach being a Class 1 civilization. It's not worth freaking out about. Just deal with it, and do not shoot first. Shout out to Golden. Yeah, it's probably like the equivalent of someone throwing rocks at the U.S. military. That's what I would assume. Shout out to Golden. All right, Golden, have you seen UFOs flying in the private jet? Let us know. Frankie just dumped BTC in the bathroom. Oh, God. Shout out to Golden, bro. Let us know. I heard every crypto is going to $1 million tomorrow. Now hit that like button. Shout out to Panda the Prophet. He is the prophet, guys. He is the prophet. He knows. I'm going to get me an alien. Yeah, imagine. I mean, I would not be shocked. I mean, I am pretty convinced that our grandchildren will have to be like, back in my day, we dated actual humans, not these AI robots. That's already starting. If you guys saw recaps from CES, there's some crazy stuff. Crazy VR stuff. Bladder liquidation signal printing. BTC rebound incoming. Fake dump. Shout out to Tone. Let's see. All right. Fake dump. 30-minute money flow trying to come back out there. 30-minute red dot confirmed. 45-minute red dot printing. 3-minute money flow in the red. So this could, we'll see here. I mean, honestly, just so many mixed signals here, guys, which is like annoying for me, right? Because I just like to give like confident moves here, but got to reclaim that value very low, that's for sure. Let's see something here. Let's mark this out real quick. Can't promise we'll get down here. Just see. Pretty evenly distributed. That's an interesting profile there. Yeah, you got your medium time frame red dots starting to roll over here as well. That money flow, though. You got your 45-minute money flow crossover. Red dot disappearing. During the speech, might not be impossible to see some kind of wildness here. But let's see this. A little head and shoulders. Not that I would trade it, but that would get you into that golden pocket. Just some ideas there. Moment of truth here. Test that value very low. 66, 312. Moment of silence here. 10-hour green dot printing. And we'll see. If we're going to see this thing continue to pop up off the 1-minute chart, right? Like not looking at the lower time frames. I would say for the bigger move up, looking for the 12-hour, the 16-hour, and the 8-hour green dot. Again, kind of looking for that 30-minute money flow to stay in the green. If we can keep that. Now, let me explain why this is hard, right? Because you don't have rolling confluence on the across all time frames, right? Because we can look at the facts. 8-hour green dot looking to print. So we can assume if that prints, right, what do we want to see? We want to see our 30-minute money flow stay in the green. If that's the case, right, this doesn't look that bad to reclaim the value area low and continue up. Why is that not an easy decision, right, or an easy situation? Well, when we start to look at the lower time frames, right, which I guess we could pull back a little bit first while keeping the money flow in the green. But when we look at the 1 hour, VWAP about to print a red dot, that's a little bit more of a significant time frame for a bigger pullback. So I don't know if we're going to hit these, but I will just mark off some of the key levels. I'll mark off this golden pocket. I don't know if we're going to get down here. We'll mark this off, though, because once you start losing that value area low, you got your line in the sand. Lose this, new low incoming, in my opinion. 65,907. Got your 15-minute bear div. Will this volume profile play? Can one of you can any computer nerds tell me why my keyboard keeps doubling letters when I hit them? It's super annoying. Shout out to French Toaster. That actually happened to me for a while. I just had to unplug it and plug it back in. And I consider myself IT support for that. How is CVD? Nothing really significant. Come on down to a lower time frame. Why is this? Come on. Rebuild that. Yeah, it's just open interest is dead. I like to see bearish CVD on big open interest increasing. So not something I'd really be looking at the moment. But let's see, lose that POC. Got a little high volume node right here, right? Lose that, right? Probably headed down towards the 66,354 level. Next dump to 62K. Could that make a 15-minute bull div? To 62K. Did I read that wrong? 62K. Nah, probably not. That's not what I would look at. If you dump below 62K, not that you can't get a 15-minute bull div down there, but no, I would not be looking at something like that. I would have to look for like a fresh divergence down there, something like that. Way too far away to kind of predict that. But this is crazy, guys. This is like, this price action is like so trash that we're like mini volume profile below the macro volume profile just to see if we can see these moves. Lynn, all right, let's take a quick look at Lynn here. Let me just set an alert here on Bitcoin. Set it right here on that low. Let's see. Oh, man. I am not going to be able to do much with this. I could probably give you some lower levels. I don't really have a ton of information on any of the higher time frames. Got VWAPs coming down on your 2-day, daily green dot printing, and then like even your resistance here. Not much to really look at as far as structure goes. Oh, there we go. We got a little more. Well, nothing. Absolutely nothing. So let's see here. See if this is relevant. All right. So let me just go ahead and pull this fib real quick. Oops. Bada boom. All right, so pushing into your non-log 786. Let me check it on log. You're already above it. Typically, for a move over that time, I would probably look at log. Let me just pull the profile here. I'll just pull it over all the price action here. Yeah, there's not a ton I can do with this, to be honest, right? Or at least anything like that's going to be relevant up here. So you got a nice higher low on your Golden Pocket 786 POC. Nice breakout. Kind of on low volume, though. Let's see here. Try to find a key level. Try to find something for you, Blair. All right, you got a weekly MPOC right here. So this would be your next technical horizontal key level to the upside. 30 cents. Let's check and then you got another weekly MPOC down here. So I'll just pull some MPOCs for you. Bada boom. See if you got any dailies. Oh, you're tapping into a daily MPOC right now. It's got something there. You got a little consolidation there. So you get the naked point of control. And then you got 2 daily MPOCs here. Got a little bit of confluence. Weekly and daily MPOCs. And then right on the value area high, another daily MPOC. And we get rid of this now. All right, so you're definitely coming up to resistance. I mean, again, there's not much I can do with this. This thing, with this pump, definitely have resistance. 30 to 28 cents. No real signals there. And then if you break above this, right, there's just like nothing I can really do. There's just like nothing for me to pull from. Pull up the visible range volume profile. There's your low volume gap. Break these highs. Fast move up. So yeah, I would say your next key levels of support, if you do get a bigger correction, I'd be interested in right here on the shelf of volume between about 19 and 18 cents. Underneath that, you have the value area high / daily MPOC confluences between 14 and 13 cents. And then, of course, if you lose this, I would just be looking back down through this profile. So those would be the key levels I'd look at. That's really all I can pull from this. So there you go. Maybe some 1 hour bear divs forming into this. But if this thing just, I mean, I'd be careful. This is a big pump. But maybe you can get some 1 hour bull divs or bear divs. But again, money flow flying to the upside. No saying that can't be. No saying that can't be the top of the money flow wave. But again, I'm not necessarily interested in fading that super amount of strong money flow. But there you go. Those are the key levels I'd look at. Value area sits. Where did I pull that value area on the weekly? Let me just change this to the daily. So there you go. Value area, it's like the only one I can really pull. Value area low, 5 cents. 5 cents. POC 7 cents. Value area high with all that confluence between 13 and 14.5 cents almost. And then that local level to the upside or to the downside from price would be between 17 and 19 cents. So there you go. These are probably the biggest levels I would look at here and here. Break below that, I'm looking back inside the profile. So there you go. Real hard to do anything with this, though. Not a ton of history. Let's see. Shout out to Zach. Thank you for the super chat, bro. Said, the GOAT Frankie is here. Barbers have no fear. If you think the price action is trash, you should do a regression trend from 71K and see we respected it 6 times. Shorts at the high, long at the lows. Shout out to Zach. Let's see. Are we having anything locally play out here on Bitcoin? Still bing-bonging around. Let's see. Oh, you're talking about like this? Yeah. Nice little descending channel there. And respecting it currently. Will the value area low hold up and break us out, or are we just going back down to the low for a new low? We'll see. Shout out to Zach. Perfectly respected. Thanks for the knowledge, Frankie. Awesome stream. Shout out to Emiliano. God, I don't know how to read the rest of that name. Shout out to you, brother. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Lion. Said, you were right. Aster pumped. Let's see. What were we looking at? Oh, there we go. Little push to the upside. Let's see if we can hit that golden pocket 786. Probably won't be here for the stream, but that would be the next big level to look at. You really want to crack above this in order to see the bigger move up. 15-minute money flow crossing into the green. Unfortunately, not confluent with the printing of the 4-hour green dot, but could still indicate. We still got the 30-minute money flow trying to come up. 8-hour green dot looking to print. That would be the next thing I would look at in order to identify if you could see a continuation of that trend. That 30-minute green dot cools you off. Right? Maybe we can get the continuation up off that money flow crossover if the 8-hour green dot prints. Shout out to Lion. Shout out to Lion. Yo, shout out to Dave Digital. Said, ask Grok. Grok knows it's a Corsair keyboard super common issue called key chatter. Double registration from switch bounce or dirt. Quick fixes to try. Shout out to Dave. IT tips in the chat. But yeah, we'll see what happens here, guys. I got to hop off here. But locally, again, I don't want to get everybody like super caught up in the local analysis here. It's my overall thought process. Of course. Local view, simple local view. If we can reclaim value area low, POC golden pocket 786 would be the next target between about 68,350 and 69,136. If we wind up taking the low, local low meaning simply still waiting on that golden pocket. Daily MPLC confluence sitting right here between 64,827 and 64,1. That's local, right? I'm interested in maybe scalps. Other than that, longer term, guys, just keeping a view of this overall volume profile, right? Just clean up those local levels. At the end of the day, we're inside the value area. Value area high, POC, back to the high, can't get out, back to the POC. Still prefer that bigger move to the downside. Again, not from a probability perspective, just as a preference, I would prefer to see those lower prices. Again, for the higher time frame reasons that we talked about, it would be a lot easier to start sniping those higher time frame bottom confirmations rather than some kind of like V-shaped or 2015 type bear market recovery coming in, which is much harder to call. So we'll see what happens. I will check in with you guys tomorrow. Again, here on the live stream. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss these live streams or urgent market updates that we upload. Shout out to Lion, says, I took 1K profit from Aster. Thanks for the confluence. Shout out to Lion. Let's go. We'll throw a little bit of cash for you, bro. We'll throw a little bit of cash. We can't throw 20s for you. We're going to throw hundreds. We're going to throw some hungies for you. There we go. Shout out to Lion. Congrats, bro. None of that fell on camera. We got to do that again. There we go. Shout out to Lion. There we go. Get off me. Get off me. Anyway, shout out to Lion. Congratulations. Thank you guys for tuning in. And hopefully tomorrow we can get some better price action. We'll see what happens. But for the most part, guys, for the bigger trades, I'm just waiting for those bigger levels to get hit. Until then, it's little scalp trades like yesterday. Trying to make as much money as we can before the next big move. So with all that being said, that's all I got for today's live stream. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Smash that like button. Throw those candles up in the chat, and we'll end tonight's stream with Rudy's Candle Mafia war chant. That's all I got. I'll see you tomorrow. Hasta pasta. Frankie Candles out. Bing bong!
CandleMafia. Frankie, light it up. Screens glow green on a Monday. Frankie in a chat like Conway. Lines on the chart like a runway. Whole squad ready for the uptake. He don't chase punks, he erase fear. Reading that flow, see it real clear. Zone by zone, put the plan in gear. Hit, take profit, then we disappear. Big wicks, he don't even flinch. Red ball,
shout out Rudy.
Talk size, talk risk, talk win. Same grind every day, same man. Candle Mafia, candles up. Frankie call it price it up. Boom. Money flow, heavy, that's us. And Frankie we trust, and Frankie we trust. Candle Mafia, run that play. Limb tall, we don't gotta say much. Green way, pushing our way. And Frankie we trust, and Frankie we trust. Hey, Frankie say wait for the flow switch. We don't FOMO, that's broke shit. Watch that river go thick. Rich, ride that tide, then we cash in. TC traps in a low range. TC caps where the highs hang. He mark boxes like code names. Whole map in his mind like war games. Late night shot with the squad on mute. He call level, we call loop. Stack stats, that's the real proof. Receipts in the chat, that's true. Candle Mafia, candles up. Frankie call it price it up. Money flow heavy, that's us. And Frankie we trust, and Frankie we trust. Candle Mafia, run that play. Volume talk, we don't gotta say much. Green wave, pushing our way. And Frankie we trust, and Frankie we trust. We don't pray for a lucky hit. We just wait for the perfect fit. He say flow lined up, that's it. Whole crew locked in, then we flip. Candle Mafia, candles up. Frankie call it pricey rough. Money flow heavy, that's us. And Frankie we trust, and Frankie we trust. Yeah. Candle Mafia.